Chapter 418. Sevilla ensnared. The 16th round of La Liga marks the final match before the Christmas break of this season. In contrast to the meticulously arranged and heavily marketed festive clashes of the Premier League, La Liga's pre-Christmas fixtures appear to be considerably more benevolent towards the players. There are virtually no high-stakes encounters or significant local derbies. It seems as though the league's executives are more eager for the holiday than the players themselves. Such a humane scheduling and winter break arrangement has left many current La Liga players, who previously experienced the grueling fixtures of the Premier League, rather emotional. Even a physical marvel like Lionel, who is often impervious to fatigue, found the relentless winter schedule of England somewhat taxing. The back-to-back matches were arduous, compounded by the damp and chilly winter weather in England. Each year, as the Premier League's grueling winter fixtures commence, countless players succumb to injury. And even Lionel could only endure with sheer determination. Now, the prospect of enjoying over a week of winter respite in the comparatively mild Spanish winter feels like an exquisite blessing. As the delightful holiday period approaches, players from various La Liga teams have begun to contemplate excursions with their families or partners. Consequently, the atmosphere surrounding the 16th round of matches lacks any palpable tension. The clash between Real Madrid and Valencia was particularly overshadowed by Lionel, who recently clinched the Ballon d'Or. Since Real Madrid was the visiting team in this match, Lionel refrained from showcasing his accolade on rival turf. However, the enthusiasm of the local fans and visitors in the Valencia region was undeniable. Valencia supporters, unable to secure many home tickets, witnessed scalpers seizing the opportunity to resell tickets at inflated prices to eager tourists and neutral fans, most of whom had come specifically to watch Lionel play. The CEO of Valencia even humorously suggested in a pre-match interview that they should have negotiated with Real Madrid to hold a Ballon d'Or presentation ceremony at the Mestalla Stadium prior to the match. Nevertheless, this was merely a jest. Lionel ultimately took to the field alongside his teammates, responding to the fervent cheers of the home crowd with a few appreciative waves. The match itself unfolded without much drama, as Valencia's strength has significantly waned after parting ways with several key players over the past 2 seasons. Once a contender for the top 4 in the 2014-15 season, Valencia now finds itself firmly entrenched in mid-table obscurity. While relegation concerns are absent, breaking into the European competition zone has become a formidable challenge. Financial woes have compelled Valencia to follow the path of many smaller clubs, selling off key players year after year. This not only tarnishes Valencia's reputation and prospects within La Liga, but also diminishes the morale of the remaining core players. In this match, Lionel did not exert much effort. He played for only 60 minutes, providing a single assist before being substituted early by Ancelotti. Real Madrid ultimately did not achieve a resounding victory at the Mestalla Stadium, securing a modest 3-1 win over Valencia, thus concluding the La Liga schedule with an impressive streak of 16 consecutive victories before the Christmas break. A slight disappointment lingered, however, as Navas failed to earn a clean sheet bonus in this match. The player who managed to breach Real Madrid's defenses was none other than Parejo, an esteemed senior from the same Castilla youth academy as Leon. This talented midfielder, who has not seen much playing time with the first team, has repeatedly found the back of the net against Real Madrid over the years, earning a notorious reputation as a Real Madrid slayer in La Liga. Leon and Parejo were not well acquainted. After the match, they merely exchanged brief greetings. In contrast, Leon was far more familiar with several of his teammates at Valencia, such as Garay, Mangala, and Nani. After a pleasant exchange of pleasantries with these old acquaintances, Leon approached the young fullback Cancelo, who had performed admirably during the match, to offer him some heartfelt encouragement. Little did he know that his enthusiastic support left the emerging Cancelo both thrilled and intimidated. The excitement was understandable, as receiving praise from a Ballon d'Or winner is a remarkable honor for any young player in the footballing world. The apprehension, however, stemmed from the widely circulated rumors about Leon's penchant for mentoring promising young talents. Nonetheless, Leon remained indifferent to the myriad of rumors surrounding him. After this round of the league, he chose not to remain in Madrid to utilize the 10-day break for additional training. Instead, he accepted Cristiano Ronaldo's invitation, quickly packed his bags, and set off with him to a quaint coastal town in Portugal to bask in the winter sun. Initially, the frequent updates on their respective social media pleased their fans immensely. However, as the two spent their days sunbathing, the tone of comments on their posts began to shift dramatically. 10 days later, witnessing Leon and Ronaldo sporting a deep tan, their bright smiles standing in stark contrast. Their female admirers were left in a state of emotional turmoil, unable to express their sentiments. Leon did not share Ronaldo's fervent obsession with bronzed skin. He found the experience novel and amusing, and after much persuasion from Ronaldo, he indulged in the endeavor. However, upon returning to Madrid, he faced light-hearted teasing from his girlfriend, who had flown in from China to see him, prompting him to post on Twitter that he would strive to minimize his tanning attempts in the future. After addressing his complexion, Leon and Ronaldo did not neglect their hairstyles. In a spontaneous decision, the two underwent perming and dyeing, resulting in hair that resembled a mass of noodles atop their heads. Coupled with their now shiny, darkened complexions, they presented a rather disheveled appearance. The two most aesthetically pleasing players in Real Madrid had transformed into an unrecognizable state, akin to refugees, leaving their devoted fans unable to muster any compliments, instead feeling a pang of discomfort at the sight. In the interim period before the La Liga competition reignites, various Spanish media outlets have thrived on reporting the captivating aesthetics of players like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. However, as the King's Cup approached, this sensationalist discourse gradually subsided, and the attention of fans shifted from the superficialities of Messi and Ronaldo's appearances back to the pitch. Real Madrid found themselves pitted against Sevilla in the knockout stage of the King's Cup, a rather unfortunate draw. Sevilla, having consistently secured a position within the European competition zone in recent seasons, has surprisingly managed to compete in the Champions League despite their rankings suggesting otherwise. This is largely due to their extraordinary achievement of clinching 3 consecutive Europa League titles. If Real Madrid is the reigning king of the Champions League, Sevilla undoubtedly holds the crown for the Europa League. Achieving such accolades is no small feat. Sevilla has proven to be a formidable opponent in La Liga, and Real Madrid has shown little inclination to engage them in a fierce battle. However, with their key players well-rested and no compelling reason to abandon the King's Cup, Carlo Ancelotti refrained from deploying a squad of youth players in the same manner as José Mourinho once did. On the evening of January 4th, after completing their preparations, Real Madrid hosted Sevilla in what was anticipated to be a thrilling contest. In contrast to Real Madrid's cautious approach with their full-strength squad, Sevilla unexpectedly opted to rotate several of their key players. At first glance, many fans may have found this decision perplexing. Yet, considering that Sevilla had finally advanced from the Champions League group stage into the round of 16 and had recently played a postponed King's Cup match, their reduced rest period becomes understandable. Furthermore, Sevilla's reluctance to engage in a strenuous battle with Real Madrid in the King's Cup seems reasonable. Sevilla's remarkable achievement of 3 consecutive Europa League titles over the past 3 seasons is commendable. However, the pressure stemming from the Europa League is significantly less daunting than that of the Champions League. The difficulty of the knockout stages in the Europa League pales in comparison to that of the Champions League. Sevilla's squad depth can only be deemed average, and if they wish to achieve better results in the Champions League this season, they must prioritize reducing the burden of domestic cup competitions. Faced with the prospect of earning considerable financial rewards in the Champions League knockout stages versus the comparatively meager returns of the King's Cup, Sevilla's management undoubtedly knows which path to choose. Thus, what was anticipated to be a fierce clash for Real Madrid ultimately turned into a fortunate encounter. Sevilla, seemingly disinterested, delivered a lackluster performance at the Santiago Bernabéu, trailing 1-3 by halftime. By the conclusion of the match, the scoreline had escalated to 1-4 in favor of Real Madrid, effectively rendering the second leg devoid of suspense. In this match, Messi once again contributed with a goal and an assist, while Ronaldo showcased his prowess by netting his first hat-trick of the season. Although the appearance of the two brothers may seem comical, their performance was nothing short of impeccable, prompting even the miling to begrudgingly commend their rather spirited and darkened demeanor. 3 days later, in the 17th round of La Liga, the duo continued to start. Yet both were substituted by Ancelotti after merely half a match, treated with the utmost care akin to treasured gems. This time, Cristiano Ronaldo exhibited no sign of dissatisfaction upon being replaced, as he had already found the net, continuing his recent scoring streak. Leon, on the other hand, provided a delightful assist with a delicate through ball, enabling Bale to open the scoring. By halftime, Real Madrid had established a commanding 3-0 lead against Granada, allowing the brothers to effectively clock out for the day. Ultimately, Real Madrid triumphed over Granada with a resounding 5-0 victory at the Bernabeu, extending their winning streak in the league to 17 matches, thereby intensifying the pressure on their pursuers, Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. 5 days later, Real Madrid faced Sevilla in the second leg of the Copa del Rey round of 16. Despite Sevilla playing at home, the deficit they created for themselves in the first leg was insurmountable. In light of the bleak prospects for a comeback, Sevilla's coaching staff made the bold decision to field a starting lineup composed of reserves and youth players to confront Real Madrid. Consequently, the Real Madrid B team effortlessly secured a 2-0 victory over Sevilla, propelling the squad into the quarterfinals of this season's Copa del Rey. During the subsequent draw for the quarterfinals, Real Madrid was fortunate to avoid formidable opponents, landing Celta. Atletico drew Eibar, while Barcelona faced another tough adversary, Real Sociedad. This draw proved advantageous for Real Madrid, and their supporters eagerly anticipated the forthcoming semi-final matchup. However, the coaching staff of Real Madrid harbored mixed feelings. While reaching the Copa del Rey semi-finals was undoubtedly a cause for celebration, the concern loomed regarding whether they could effectively manage the demands of competing on 3 fronts. This posed a significant dilemma for Ancelotti, yet having reached this juncture, dwelling excessively on potential pitfalls would only disrupt the team's championship aspirations. Ultimately, Ancelotti chose to embrace a more relaxed disposition. After all, the prior rotation strategy had been executed well, and the key players' fitness and match form were satisfactory. Thus, they would continue on this path. If the season were to unravel as it had in previous years during the title race, Ancelotti would simply accept his misfortune. However, unbeknownst to him, this calm demeanor instilled a sense of confidence within all the players. They were more inclined to trust their coach's assurance regarding their capability to contend on multiple fronts and felt well prepared with tactical plans in place. As long as the coaching staff remained steadfast, believing in their potential to vie for glory across all competitions, the players would resolutely strive for victory. By serendipitously uplifting team morale, Ancelotti soon led the squad back to Sevilla's Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan Stadium. After completing 2 Kings Cup matches against Sevilla in quick succession, Real Madrid now faced Sevilla again in the 18th round of La Liga. This intriguing scheduling reminded Lyon of the time when they faced Athletic Bilbao in a similar series of matches. Back then, even the spectators felt weary of the constant clashes between the two teams. Sevilla's main players were determined not to succumb to another defeat against Real Madrid in this league encounter. They could justify their prior losses in the Kings Cup, as they had predominantly fielded a rotated squad, believing that with their full-strength team and the advantage of playing at home, they had the capability to contend with Real Madrid. Sevilla's entire squad was eager to reclaim their pride after the previous 2 losses. However, they were up against a Real Madrid side brimming with energy and buoyed by recent morale-boosting victories. Did Sevilla wish for a hard-fought battle? Real Madrid welcomed the challenge. From the outset, both teams engaged in an intense exchange of attacks. In the first 30 minutes, with both sides displaying abundant stamina, Sevilla matched Real Madrid, resulting in a balanced contest. Each team netted a goal, and before halftime, Sevilla almost took the lead when Ben Yedder's curling shot from outside the box struck the post, igniting a wave of excitement tinged with disappointment among the home fans. Yet, as the second half commenced, Sevilla's vigor waned after a mere 15 minutes, allowing the still energetic Real Madrid to push them back into their half. The true turning point for Real Madrid emerged after the 65th minute, as they accelerated the pace of the game when Sevilla could no longer withstand the pressure. By the 70th minute, Real Madrid's relentless assaults shattered Sevilla's defensive structure. Had Sevilla opted for a full retreat, relying on their numerical advantage, they might have avoided a severe defeat. However, with some players still eager to engage in open play, their nightmare unfolded in the final 20 minutes. Lyon initiated the onslaught, executing a 1-2 with Marcelo before surging forward, tearing through Sevilla's backline. As Sevilla's right-back Mariano made a desperate attempt to intercept, Lyon seamlessly passed to Cristiano Ronaldo, who sped past Sevilla's center-back Pareja, delivering a low cross. Benzema's well-timed run drew away another center-back, Rami, allowing Bale to strike effortlessly at the back post, restoring balance on the pitch. From that moment on, as Sevilla desperately sought to equalize, they became increasingly frantic. In contrast, Real Madrid calmly adopted a more compact formation, focusing on counterattacking. In the 83rd minute, Cristiano Ronaldo capitalized on a backheeled pass from Modric, firing a shot into the net. 6 minutes later, Isco, who had replaced Benzema, delivered a cross during a counterattack, assisting Lyon's forward header into the goal. Real Madrid ultimately triumphed over Sevilla with a resounding 4-1 victory away from home. The Sevilla players, having been defeated thrice in quick succession by Real Madrid, appear to be experiencing a fracturing of their morale. Indeed, they have been thoroughly overwhelmed. This chapter concludes here. As for today, I have discussed with the editor about revising the beginning, and I will continue to make adjustments for another couple of hours. I kindly request a day off from the old book today. It will resume its regular updates tomorrow, and the new book, barring any unforeseen circumstances, is set to be released tomorrow as well. I sincerely hope all esteemed readers will lend their support at that time. The new book has been published, and I humbly ask for your continued support. The old book will update as usual today, and the new work, titled Beginning as a Right Back, Transformed by Wenger, has been released. With different positions come different tales, and I hope esteemed readers will continue to support it, with collections and recommendations greatly appreciated. Chapter 419. Barcelona can clean their necks and wait for us. Winning consecutive crucial matches is indeed a delightful experience. More importantly, this ongoing sense of victory has instilled a considerable amount of confidence in the other players of Real Madrid's first team. A sufficient number of victories can obscure 99 internal issues within the team. As long as they keep winning, garnering triumph after triumph, the various sports media in Spain, the supporters of Real Madrid, and even the entire upper management of the club will unite steadfastly around this new iteration of Real Madrid. Leon currently feels quite positive, as he senses that this team has recaptured much of the unity reminiscent of the Mourinho-era Real Madrid. Speaking of internal issues, this current Real Madrid is comparatively mild. Unlike the Mourinho era, which was akin to sitting atop a powder keg. Back then, Leon adopted a one-day-at-a-time mentality, uncertain when the captain Casillas might explode and potentially dismantle the team. Furthermore, Mourinho's high-pressure tactics in the locker room often incited rebellious sentiments among the multitude of stars. Yet, despite such challenges, that Mourinho-led Real Madrid ultimately achieved success, securing everything and leaving behind a legendary dynasty in football history. This is the transformative power of team confidence cultivated through continuous victories. History has shown that even the most intense internal conflicts will eventually ease in the face of repeated triumphs. Do not be deceived by the media's portrayal of the current competition between Ronaldo and Bale, or even the rivalry for the core position between Leon and Ronaldo, as being fraught with tension. In reality, both Leon and Ronaldo regard these matters as trivial. In the past, Ramos openly sided with Casillas during a media interview, showing blatant disregard for Mourinho, directly expressing dissatisfaction with the tactical arrangements. Yet, following their progression to the Champions League final, Ramos reconciled with Mourinho in the locker room. Such conflicts were genuine storms. The current media frenzy surrounding them is nothing more than a gentle drizzle. Moreover, with Ancelotti increasingly liberal in his approach to rotations, many substitute players within Real Madrid have been afforded greater opportunities to play, naturally leading to a reduction in discontent. After triumphing over Sevilla in the league, Ancelotti confidently opted to field the reserve team for the subsequent Copa del Rey round of 16 match. Despite the absence of G's and Mariano due to injuries, Real Madrid's midfield trio, led by James and Kovacic, effectively stifled Celta's midfield performance. The attacking trio of Vázquez, Asensio, and Isco, while perhaps not as formidable in direct confrontations, demonstrated remarkable synergy through their frequent positional rotations, effectively pulling apart the defensive line. Throughout the first half, Real Madrid leveraged their technical superiority in the midfield and forward positions to execute a style reminiscent of their old rivals Barcelona, characterized by possession-based penetration. The absence of a traditional striker aligned well with Barcelona's favored false nine formation from previous years, showcasing an impressive mimicry of their tactical approach. Surprisingly, this strategy proved effective against Celta, a team that struggles with midfield control and defensive solidity. By monopolizing the ball and managing the tempo, Real Madrid's offensive sequences were limited, resulting in a mere one-goal lead at halftime, which seemed underwhelming at first glance. However, the tactic of controlling the game had significantly depleted the stamina of Celta's starting players. As the second half commenced, both teams engaged in a stalemate in midfield until the 65th minute, when Ancelotti introduced Leon for Kovacic. This substitution signaled a tactical shift, with Leon's presence simplifying and intensifying Real Madrid's attacking efforts. His and James's overlapping runs applied substantial pressure on Celta's defensive line. By the 79th minute, Celta's backline began to crumble under physical strain. Seizing the opportunity, Leon struck from distance to score, and subsequently assisted Asensio to seal the match's outcome. With a commanding 3-0 victory at home against Celta, Real Madrid took a significant step toward the Copa del Rey semifinals. Meanwhile, the first-team players maintained their fitness, allowing them to fully concentrate on the League and Champions League preparations without distraction from the Copa del Rey. Consequently, on January 21st, Malaga faced the misfortune of confronting a fully energized Real Madrid first team at the Bernabeu. The match unfolded smoothly for Real Madrid, as the current Malaga squad starkly contrasts with the team that once reached the Champions League quarterfinals with Isco at its core. Defeating a mid-table La Liga team is no longer a remarkable feat for the current iteration of Real Madrid. In a straightforward affair, Cristiano Ronaldo and Ramos each found the net, while Bale and Modric provided assists. Leon, without any personal statistics to report in this match, alongside Casemiro, effectively locked down the midfield, denying Malaga significant penetration opportunities. Following yet another league victory, the first-team players were rewarded with a well-deserved break, something they had not experienced in some time. Previously, they had only been afforded a day of rest during rotations, and while they were not required to compete, daily training remained obligatory. The La Liga has entered a 9-day period of respite, during which Ancelotti generously granted his key players a 3-day break. The reserve team is also scheduled for a break. However, they must first complete their Copa del Rey second-leg match against Celta on January 25th before they can truly rest. This round of the Copa del Rey posed little difficulty for Real Madrid's rotated reserve squad, as Ancelotti devised a tactical plan centered on counterattacking. At Celta's home ground, Real Madrid remained unfazed by their opponent's provocations, resolutely executing a strategy of defensive counterplay throughout the match. Although they ultimately suffered their first defeat of the season, losing 1-2 to Celta away, they advanced to the semi-finals of this season's Copa del Rey with a comfortable aggregate score of 4-2. The other 3 matches concluded in succession, with Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, and Alaves securing the remaining 3 spots in the Copa del Rey's Final Four. In the subsequent draw, Atletico drew Barcelona, while Real Madrid fortuitously drew Alaves. Both Atletico and Barcelona found these matchups acceptable, although they did not face a soft opponent. They were relieved to avoid an early encounter with Real Madrid, the dominant force of this La Liga season. Presently, both Atletico and Barcelona approach matches against Real Madrid with a somewhat diminished mindset, having already faced each other in the league and possessing a thorough understanding of one another's capabilities. Facing Real Madrid in a 2-legged knockout round, both teams feel the odds of securing victory are slim. Nevertheless, whether it's Atletico assessing Barcelona or vice versa, each team believes they are marginally superior to their adversary and feels confident in their pursuit of a Copa del Rey final berth. Beyond Alaves, the 3 giants of Spanish football expressed general satisfaction with the Copa del Rey semi-final draw this year. Yet, unexpectedly, the formidable Real Madrid, well-rested and well-prepared, stumbled against Real Sociedad. In the 20th round of La Liga, despite having more rest, Real Madrid's starting lineup, playing at home, ended up drawing 1-1 with the visiting Real Sociedad. The key to Sociedad's hard-fought draw lay in their relentless pursuit and outstanding performance, while Real Madrid's key players exhibited significant issues. As many commentators noted, it appeared that the main squad's performance had waned after their relaxation period. This assertion may not be entirely accurate, yet the excessive relaxation undoubtedly influenced Real Madrid's display in this match. Consequently, their impressive winning streak in the league came to an end, stalling at 19 victories. The players of Real Sociedad, having successfully broken Real Madrid's unbeaten streak, celebrated with great enthusiasm. Leon was naturally dissatisfied with the match's progression and outcome, yet he refrained from expressing anger or placing pressure on his teammates due to this unexpected draw. After regaining his composure, Leon sprinted towards Real Sociedad's half, where he warmly embraced Long, who had played the entire match and appeared as formidable as ever. It had been quite some time since this former Minermonti duo had reunited on the pitch. After leaving Real Madrid, Leon found it increasingly difficult to face his former club in competitive matches. Eventually, he had the opportunity to cross paths with them during the Champions League group stage. But by then, Long had already transferred back to his old club, Real Sociedad. Prior to the commencement of this season, Long had publicly declared via social media that it would be his final season in professional football. During the first half of the league, when Real Sociedad faced Real Madrid, Long was unfortunately sidelined due to injury. Consequently, for Leon, this encounter marked both the first and last meeting with Long in La Liga this season. Though the two had maintained a considerable amount of communication and private meetings, the thought of their last competitive match together filled them with a profound sense of nostalgia. However, after a moment of reflection tinged with sadness, Long adopted a more optimistic outlook, and Leon felt genuine happiness for his first midfield mentor. He rejoiced in the knowledge that Long could now spend more time with his family and was relieved that he could finally distance himself from injuries, gradually embarking on a new chapter in his professional journey. Even without transferring to Bayern Munich or gaining insights from Guardiola's coaching staff, Long was resolute in his decision to pursue a coaching career, a choice he had made long ago and was not a secret, as he had often expressed his interest in coaching during interviews. Leon remained uncertain whether Long would choose to stay at Real Sociedad or venture to another club to begin his coaching career after the season concluded. Nevertheless, he firmly believed that no matter what decision Long made, he would ultimately evolve into an exceptional head coach through continuous learning and self-reflection. Leon sincerely hoped that one day in the future, they would reunite and collaborate once more, this time as a young coach and a seasoned player. Following the conclusion of the 20th round of La Liga, all teams entered a 12-day respite, with the exception of those engaged in Copa del Rey duties. The two-legged semi-final matches were set to take place from February 1st to February 8th. Previously, Real Madrid's key players had enjoyed an abundance of rest, which led to a minor setback in the league. Thus, in these two Copa del Rey matches, Ancelotti opted to field his main players instead of rotating the squad. The eager Real Madrid starters had no objections. In fact, they were keen to compete. On the evening of February 1st, Atletico Madrid faced Barcelona in the first leg of the Copa del Rey semi-finals. After a grueling 90 minutes, Atletico succumbed to a 2-1 defeat on the road. However, they had not entirely lost the advantage for progression, as they trailed by just one goal and secured a valuable away goal. With the second leg returning to their home ground, Atletico still held a significant chance to overturn the deficit and advance to the Copa del Rey final. In stark contrast to the tense showdown between Atletico and Barcelona, the match between Real Madrid and Alaves was decidedly one-sided. To be more precise, when Alaves initially took the lead at the Bernabeu, the furious stars of Real Madrid seized control of the match's tempo, orchestrating an unwavering offensive onslaught for a full 90 minutes, thereby eliminating any suspense from the two-legged elimination tie. Alaves commenced the match with a commendable tactical strategy. In response to Real Madrid's aggressive advances and high pressing, they wisely opted to compact their formation and execute rapid counterattacks. Their opening goal stemmed from a swift counterattack along the flanks. Madrid's initial offensive was slightly hasty, granting Alaves an opportunity, and the dynamics of the match subtly shifted after Alaves took the lead. However, it was ill-advised for Alaves to retreat into a defensive shell after scoring first. Had they maintained their counterattacking approach, Real Madrid might have been somewhat cautious, but by relinquishing control of the midfield and parking the bus in their own penalty area, they merely provided Madrid with more opportunities to experiment. The tactical legacy left by Mourinho at Real Madrid is substantial. Among the many benefits that continue to serve the team is a plethora of methods to dismantle a compact defense. Even though Alaves defended with everyone behind the ball, their defensive capabilities were merely average. Real Madrid wasted little time, as Benzema equalized with a deft header in the 24th minute of the first half. Merely 7 minutes later, Leon, receiving a return pass from Bale, struck decisively from outside the Alaves penalty area to score again. Reeling from this double blow, Alaves began to panic and attempted to extend their defensive line to launch counterattacks. However, their belated tactical adjustments ultimately rang the death knell for them. Madrid continued to impose high pressing on Alaves, and during stoppage time of the first half, Cristiano Ronaldo netted Madrid's third goal. As the second half unfolded, with Alaves players struggling for fitness, Madrid accelerated their pace, ultimately scoring 3 more goals within the next 45 minutes, decisively defeating Alaves 6-1 in the first leg. This scoreline rendered the subsequent encounter between Real Madrid and Alaves devoid of suspense. After a week of respite, on the evening of February 8th, Atletico Madrid hosted Barcelona in a fierce battle. Surprisingly, Barcelona opted to solidify their defense first, which made life exceedingly difficult for the offensively challenged Atletico. Valverde's astute tactical insight ultimately aided Barcelona in securing a 1-1 draw at Atletico's ground, thus triumphing with an aggregate score of 3-2 and earning a ticket to this season's Copa del Rey final. The following evening, Real Madrid faced Alaves away and, without doubt, once again triumphed 3-0, thereby setting the stage for a clash with Barcelona in the Copa del Rey final. After the match, Leon did not conceal his eagerness for the Copa del Rey championship. Confronted with the challenge of their old rivals, Barcelona, Leon expressed unwavering confidence. "I shall undoubtedly continue our unbeaten streak against Barcelona. There is nothing more to say. Clean your necks and prepare, dear old adversaries." This chapter concludes. Chapter 4:20. Be the first. Be the champion. Leon's provocative remarks have long ceased to astonish the fans of Barcelona. They are certainly compelled to rise in resistance. At the very least, to project an image of defiance, which has become a classic spectacle on the La Liga stage. As long as Leon's unbeaten streak against Barcelona remains intact, he will forever retain the right to issue provocative statements regarding the Catalan giants. The supporters of Barcelona lack the confidence to confront him directly, and many neutral fans hold no objections either. After all, Barcelona has yet to secure even a single victory against Leon, which leaves them in a position of vulnerability. The sports media in Catalonia remained conspicuously silent prior to the match, indicating that they have indeed learned to be more prudent. Observing this, Leon refrained from making further comments about the Copa del Rey final. Ultimately, the outcome of the match must be determined on the field. He occasionally teases the nerves of Barcelona fans and shares a joke, but he does not wish to be perceived as a braggart. Thus, a war of words that had yet to commence was quashed before it could even take form. Having endured a grueling schedule without rotation, Leon finally embraced his rare holiday. Albeit for just 2 days, he spent quality time at home with his girlfriend, while Real Madrid, despite his absence, did not falter in the league. A semi-reserve squad ventured to face Osasuna, ultimately securing a 2-0 victory, marking their 20th win of the season. 3 days later, Real Madrid set off for Germany, with Leon joining the team for their Champions League knockout stage clash against Borussia Dortmund on the evening of February 15th. Upon returning to the familiar Westfalenstadion, the image of Leon in a casual suit alongside Cristiano Ronaldo gazing at the sunset became the featured image on Real Madrid's official social media. The announcement of the starting lineup, brimming with star power, sent a palpable wave of pressure through the Dortmund fanbase. The lineup was revealed a day in advance, exuding nothing but confidence rather than any hint of disdain for Dortmund. Real Madrid's intention was clear, to boldly break through as the visiting team. Regardless of how Dortmund's coaching staff scrutinized and strategized against them, Real Madrid harbored no fear. This formidable confidence stemmed from their remarkable performance throughout the season. Dortmund, fully aware of the tenacity of a confident Real Madrid, could not afford to underestimate them. Times have changed since 2013, and their current strength has significantly diminished. The primary lineup has undergone a complete transformation, and their midfield is far less formidable than it once was. Under the guidance of Tuchel, Dortmund's coaching staff utilized the final night before the match to make tactical adjustments. Consequently, on the evening of February 15th, the Real Madrid players were greeted by a Dortmund side that had shifted to a 3-4-3 formation. This was a notable departure from Tuchel's frequently employed 3-5-2 setup this season. Both Ancelotti and Leon initially speculated that Tuchel deemed it impossible to maintain a defensive stance at home, prompting him to adopt a more aggressive 3-4-3 formation. As the match commenced, the two wingers of Borussia Dortmund, Marco Reus and Ousmane Dembele, adopted a more central positioning, drifting inward rather than remaining on the flanks. Their playing style leaned more towards that of an attacking midfielder or a central midfielder. This shift was particularly evident as the two defensive midfielders, Weigl and Castro, were not inclined to surge forward with the ball. Instead, it was these wingers who were expected to operate on the edges, frequently retracing their steps to retrieve the ball and initiate forward movement. This formation hardly resembled a traditional 3-4-3. It was, in fact, a modified and conservative 3-6-1. After some time on the pitch, Lyon discerned the underlying strategy. Tuchel was attempting to have the best of both worlds, in defensive situations or while controlling the game. He expected the two retreating wingers to undertake more midfield responsibilities, assisting in defense, supporting ball retrieval, and orchestrating progression. Reyes, of course, could sacrifice for the team in this regard, but what about Dembele? If the coaching staff imposed strict requirements, he too could presumably fulfill the latter two tactical duties. The crux of the matter was that when transitioning from defense to attack, Tuchel also sought for Reyes and Dembele to swiftly penetrate the penalty area, assisting Aubameyang in drawing the attention of Real Madrid's central and defensive lines. This expectation seemed excessive, almost as if he were treating his wingers as workhorses. In terms of capability, Reyes could indeed meet Tuchel's tactical demands, yet his physical condition did not support such exertion. Even during his prime, Reyes struggled with Klopp's high-intensity approach. Tuchel's method might very well deplete Reyes' stamina within a single half. Logically, the responsibilities of orchestrating forward runs and defending should have been assigned to the two defensive midfielders Tuchel had selected for the day. Consequently, Lyon found it difficult to comprehend Tuchel's rationale behind taxing two offensive players. What he failed to realize was that it was precisely because of his presence that Tuchel hesitated to allow his two defensive midfielders to venture forward freely, aiming to curtail Lyon's impact. Lyon ultimately underestimated the formidable disruption he posed to the current ecological balance in midfield across contemporary football. Coaches of nearly every European powerhouse were pondering how to limit his offensive capabilities during late runs into the box. In the past, several German media outlets praised Lyon, likening him to the new Matthias of this footballing era. However, such sentiments have since dwindled. This is due to Lyon's dominion on both ends of the field, which has far surpassed that of the legendary Matthias from yesteryears, particularly highlighted by his nearly indefensible attacking style, characterized by intricate late runs. When faced with double marking, he delivers precise passes that enable his teammates to exploit defensive gaps. When met with one-on-one marking, he simply bypasses his defender with agility, directly orchestrating breakthroughs. This tactic has proven consistently effective, and yet coaches of elite teams have grappled with devising countermeasures to thwart him. Tuchel certainly finds himself among those troubled coaches, ultimately concluding that Lyon's individual capabilities on both ends of the field have transcended those of most star players. Thus, one must either deploy two formidable defensive stars to contain his performance or accumulate sufficient defensive strength in the midfield specifically to target Lyon, while assigning the majority of tactical responsibilities to other players. At first glance, this strategy seems somewhat reasonable. However, one must ponder how long those additional players can endure the rigors of high-intensity competition. Lyon, perplexed by Tuchel's peculiar intentions, nonetheless suggests that his teammates expend more energy on Reus and Dembele. His astute tactical acumen quickly leads him to identify the crux of the situation. Other Dortmund players, such as Castro, Guerrero, or Aubameyang, do not strike Lyon as pivotal figures. They resemble mere screws in the simple machine that is Dortmund rather than its core components. In Lyon's estimation, only Reus, who orchestrates the frontline offense, and Dembele, with his exceptional explosive capabilities, can be deemed offensive linchpins. Thus, exhausting and suppressing them becomes paramount, while the remaining Dortmund players can be marked in a standard fashion. Lyon's tactical choices are refreshingly straightforward. After observing for a moment, Ancelotti, seated on the sidelines, has no objections. As 10 minutes of game time elapse, Tuchel can still bear the tension, but after another 10 minutes, as he watches Reus and Dembele flounder despite their efforts, beads of sweat begin to form on his palms. This tactical approach, born of necessity, is fraught with challenges. Nevertheless, Tuchel harbors a flicker of hope. If only they could break the deadlock in the first half, ideally by scoring a goal, then in the second half, he could resort to substitutions to bolster their defense against Real Madrid. It is not about securing victory. Merely ensuring they do not lose at home would suffice to satisfy both the fans and the club hierarchy. As for the second leg, they would tackle that quandary at the Bernabeu, willing to give their all, even if it meant losing with dignity. Tuchel's thoughts are simple: defend their home turf, preserve the team's honor, and then discuss progression. He believes his expectations are reasonable. Yet, observing the stalemate on the pitch, it appears his strategy may be faltering. Reus and Dembele have undertaken an abundance of responsibilities in the midfield, but their incessant movements and ball receptions are merely tactics employed by Real Madrid to entice and pressure them. The entire Real Madrid squad possesses remarkable stamina, allowing them to gradually wear down the two Dortmund frontline linchpins as long as Lyon deems it premature to fully unleash their offensive prowess. As for the assaults initiated by the other Dortmund players, they are, quite frankly, insufficient against Real Madrid's defensive line, excluding Royce and Dembele. Only Aubameyang occasionally ventures outside the box to receive the ball and make a dash. The capabilities of the remaining Dortmund players are decidedly mediocre. Without their core players to drive them forward, their performance among elite teams can only be classified as subpar. Even though Real Madrid's defensive line ultimately must bear certain risks, Lyon believes that such risks are worth undertaking. Indeed, after the first half had progressed for half an hour, Dembele was the first to slow his pace. It was not necessarily that he could not endure the intensity of the match. Rather, he perhaps began to harbor doubts about the tactical strategies devised by the coaching staff, leading to his discontent. Royce managed to hold on for a while longer, but by the 40th minute of the first half, he found it increasingly difficult to maintain his tempo. After a brief respite, he could persist. But the pressing issue was that Real Madrid was not affording him the time to rest and adjust, as their frequency of retreat diminished. Weigl and Castro faced a significant increase in pressure to maintain possession in the midfield. It was only at this juncture that Real Madrid genuinely unleashed a relentless onslaught against Borussia Dortmund. Merely 4 minutes later, Bale darted into the back post of the Dortmund penalty area, leaping high to outmuscle Bartra and heading in a cross delivered by Cristiano Ronaldo. On the sidelines, Tuchel buried his face deeply in his hands, resting on his knees. His tactical plan had utterly collapsed. After 40 minutes of high pressing, Real Madrid, having exhausted the stamina of Dortmund's two frontline core players, shattered the equilibrium of the match. Lyon had hardly exerted himself by this point. How would Dortmund cope in the second half? Would they substitute in Skrtel and Pulisic only to be further drained by Real Madrid? Tuchel felt a sense of despair. Yet at the onset of the second half, he promptly replaced the lackluster Dembele with Pulisic. Dortmund's formation subsequently shifted to a conventional 3-4-3. Observing Tuchel's lack of tactical innovation, Lyon directed his teammates to press forward vigorously, engaging Dortmund in a fierce contest at midfield. However, within less than 15 minutes of the second half, Dortmund decisively relinquished control of the midfield, opting instead to compact their formation and counterattack against Real Madrid. Tuchel remained clear-headed on this matter, recognizing that against Real Madrid, a complete defensive stance without counterattacks was untenable. He still harbored hopes that Pulisic could shine on the counter and help Dortmund regain momentum. Yet, the American captain appeared ill-equipped to cope with Real Madrid's high-pressing suffocation. The counterattacking efforts initiated by Dortmund predominantly began and ended with him, as the loss of possession occurred far too swiftly. At this moment, Lyon had lost much interest in the fatigued Royce, focusing instead on relentlessly targeting Pulisic. Poor Pulisic was experiencing such scrutiny for the first time. As Tuchel's meticulously prepared tactical ace, he fell silent, while Real Madrid, in their vigorous assault, found the net once more. This goal came from Benzema, who deftly poked the ball home from inside the penalty area. After engaging in a 1-2 with Bale, Lyon surged into the Dortmund box, then delivered the ball to the advancing Carvajal, who successfully executed an accurate low cross. Benzema showcased his keen instinct in front of goal once again. His adept positioning and stable shooting under pressure made him appear entirely different from the joyful striker he once was. This goal directly pushed Dortmund to the brink of despair. In the 66th minute of the second half, Tuchel substituted Skrtel and Kagawa for Reyes and Castro. Consequently, Dortmund was left with only Weigl as their genuine defensive midfielder. The two wingbacks, Guerreiro and Dum, continued to press forward aggressively, further intensifying the pressure on Weigl. Observing this, Real Madrid adopted a compact formation, mirroring Dortmund's earlier strategy to launch counterattacks. Soon, their rapid counterattacks frequently threatened Dortmund's defensive line. In the 74th minute of the second half, Lyon swiftly darted to the flank during a counterattack, receiving a precise through ball from Modric before accelerating past the sluggish Weigl. Faced with the fierce advance of Bartra, Lyon decisively cut inside. With ample space to maneuver and having evaded Bartra's defense, he opted for a powerful strike. The thunderous long-range shot soared towards the upper right corner of Dortmund's goal. Berkey, having anticipated the shot, had already begun his leap, extending his arms in a desperate bid to save. Yet, ultimately, his fingertips fell just shy of making contact with the ball. When the ball struck the junction of the crossbar and post, ricocheting into the net, the the Westfalen Stadion fell into a hushed silence. Leon sprinted towards the goal line, smiling and raising his index finger to the camera. This gesture symbolized both his tally for the match and his aspirations for his team this season. To be first. To be champions. Chapter 4:21. The first to fall behind. Atletico Madrid. Dortmund ultimately crumbled under the immense pressure of conceding goals. After Leon netted Real Madrid's third goal, the team's resolve diminished significantly. This had little to do with Reyes's determination to fight on. Even if he gritted his teeth and inspired his teammates to resist valiantly, his solitary efforts proved futile. The last-minute introduction of Isco, who successfully earned a penalty in Dortmund's box, effectively sealed the match and extinguished any suspense for the second leg. Cristiano Ronaldo confidently converted the penalty, and the jubilant celebrations of Real Madrid's players starkly contrasted with the despondent expressions of the Bumblebee fans in the stands. After the match, Leon approached Reyes, who was kneeling in frustration, panting. They were, after all, familiar faces on the pitch. Both had once emerged as bright talents in the football world, having crossed paths and faced off in the Champions League. At that time, it was difficult to ascertain who possessed the greater potential for future success. Leon had caught Mourinho's eye, establishing himself as a promising young defensive midfielder at one of football's premier clubs. Reyes has been a formidable force in the Bundesliga, showcasing extraordinary prowess as a top-tier winger during the 2010 season with Borussia Mönchengladbach. Now, 4.5 years have elapsed since their last encounter, and the paths of both players have diverged dramatically. Leon has twice been crowned Ballon d'Or winner, triumphing over both Messi and Ronaldo in their direct confrontations in the Champions League. He now seeks to fortify his claim to the pinnacle of football with an accumulation of further championship titles and victories. Beyond national honors, Leon has achieved the remarkable feat of securing grand accolades with 2 different clubs across Europe's top leagues. In contrast, Reyes, steadfast in his commitment to Borussia Dortmund since Klopp's departure, has only garnered the German Footballer of the Year award and the Bundesliga MVP, honors he earned through his own exceptional performances. On the club front, he has only 2 German Super Cup titles to show for his efforts. This scarcity of significant achievements is a primary reason why Reyes often finds himself excluded from the top 5 rankings of wingers in renowned sports media assessments. His portfolio of prestigious accolades remains insufficient, and indeed, far from adequate. In terms of ability, Reyes, despite his injury-prone physique, has previously outperformed Ribery and Robben in the Bundesliga, with his stellar 2010 season making him a focal point for Europe's elite clubs. In his first 2 seasons with Dortmund, he delivered an impressive tally of 45 goals and 29 assists. Even after enduring a severe injury in the 2014 to 2015 season, he made a triumphant return last season, netting 20 goals and contributing to 30 overall. Yet, such accomplishments have repeatedly failed to secure him a spot among the top 5 wingers in media rankings. Is Reyes aggrieved? Indeed he is. Had he wished, he could have transferred to Bayern or Real Madrid 2 seasons ago, partnering with more stars and accumulating a greater number of prestigious trophies. However, he chose to turn down such splendid opportunities, opting instead to remain loyal to a Borussia Dortmund that seemed on the brink of decline. Reyes shares a rare quality with Gerrard, and Leon comprehends and respects his decision. The two embraced once more on the field, exchanging jerseys. Leon offered no words of encouragement to Reyes, for the latter's unwavering commitment to Dortmund requires no such reassurances. He is merely pursuing what he believes to be the most honorable and worthwhile endeavor. Leon simply patted Reyes on the shoulder and watched as he departed to uplift his teammates' spirits. In that departing figure, he faintly glimpsed many others, perhaps even himself in the future. Yet, who can truly predict what lies ahead? Leon smiled, dismissing thoughts of a future that appeared both distant and tantalizingly close. The cheers of his comrades resonated once more, and Leon turned to join in the jubilant celebration with his team. He was determined to seize the present moment. Following the conclusion of the first leg of the Champions League round of 18 against Borussia Dortmund, Real Madrid now faced the challenge of a congested schedule in the latter half of the La Liga season. As the remaining 4 major leagues reached this pivotal moment in the season, the distinctions among teams at the top, middle, and bottom of the standings have become increasingly pronounced. While competition among the leading teams in other prominent leagues may still be quite fierce, with minimal gaps in points, the current situation in La Liga presents a rather peculiar tableau. Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid have notably distanced themselves from the other La Liga teams, creating a significant chasm in points. Within this triumvirate, however, Real Madrid has established a considerable lead over both Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Presently, Real Madrid stands unrivaled at the summit of the La Liga table with an impressive record of 21 wins and 1 draw, accumulating 64 points. Barcelona follows in second place with 16 wins, 4 draws, and 2 losses, totaling 52 points, while Atletico Madrid occupies third place with 16 wins, 3 draws, and 3 losses, amassing 51 points. The point differential between Barcelona and Atletico is negligible, yet both teams find themselves trailing Real Madrid by a substantial margin of 4 victories. This nearly overwhelming advantage on the points table has bestowed upon the merengues a significant psychological edge. Spanish sports media are exuberantly proclaiming the resurgence of Real Madrid into a superlative era. 6 or 7 years ago, a formidable arms race unfolded between Real Madrid and Barcelona, as both clubs invested heavily in nurturing or acquiring world-class talents from the transfer market. During that period, to secure the La Liga title, teams were compelled to elevate their points tally to above 95, a benchmark that signified stability. Remarkably, both clubs would often conclude entire seasons with only 1 or 2 losses. The mere thought of a draw could lead to a dramatic reversal by their rivals. Such immense pressure was unparalleled in other leagues. Fans of so-called title-contending teams could scarcely fathom such a scenario. Subsequently, Real Madrid's triumph with over 100 points shattered the ceiling for championship aspirations in La Liga. This era of dual dominance by the two giants could only be aptly characterized by the term super teams. As for Atletico Madrid, although some fans have adorned them with the title of a super team in recent times, they have never truly held that distinction in the hearts of La Liga supporters. Their championship season in 2013 to 2014 saw them finish with a mere 90 points. At that time, Spanish sports media lauded Atletico's remarkable comeback victory while lamenting the premature disbandment of the Mourinho-led Real Madrid. Had that not occurred, achieving a treble would have been an effortless task for that formidable squad. Since then, neither Real Madrid nor Barcelona has been able to return to the heights of their previous Centurion seasons. Following the early dissolution of Bayern under Hanks, the European football landscape was left with only Chelsea from Mourinho's second stint as a super team. The partnership between Lyon and Mourinho successfully established a new blue dynasty. To this day, Mourinho's new Chelsea remains perched atop European football, surveying all challengers. Presently, it seems that only Real Madrid, with the swiftest ascent and the greatest potential to reclaim their status as a super team, can engage in a formidable battle with Chelsea this season. However, before reaching the ultimate confrontation with Chelsea in the Champions League, Real Madrid must first accomplish the task of rejuvenation in the league. Currently, while Real Madrid boasts a significant advantage in the league, leading second-placed Barcelona by a substantial 12 points, the seasoned players within the team remain unsatisfied. They aspire to extend their lead to a more secure margin. Thus, in the 23rd round of La Liga, the main players of Real Madrid eagerly sought to compete. Despite having only 3 days of rest after their Champions League match, Ancelotti initially intended to continue rotating the main squad to preserve their physical condition. However, upon witnessing the fervent desire of his star players to engage, he ultimately acquiesced to their wishes. On the afternoon of February 18th, Real Madrid, fielding their full-strength lineup, faced the challenge posed by Espanyol at their home ground. Although the star-studded team was eager to orchestrate another overwhelming victory against their amicable rivals, they restrained their impulses after careful consideration. In this match, Lyon played only a half, while the BBC trio completed the full 90 minutes. Ultimately, Bale, Benzema, and Cristiano Ronaldo each found the net, with Vázquez adding a finishing touch. However, the defensive line, manned by Varane and Nacho, performed merely adequately, as Casillas' goal was breached twice. Real Madrid scored 4 goals, but secured only a narrow 2-goal victory over Espanyol, a result that still brought satisfaction to both sides. At least the Espanyol players were pleased to have netted 2 goals at the Bernabeu. After a well-deserved 8-day respite, Real Madrid's squad, now brimming with energy, embarked on a less amicable away challenge against Valencia. Against a Valencia side conceding nearly 2 goals per match, the stars of Real Madrid held nothing back. In the first half alone, they struck Valencia with 4 decisive blows. Lyon and Cristiano each scored twice, showcasing their remarkable form, while Bale, Benzema, and Modric contributed with assists. As the second half unfolded, Real Madrid maintained their fiery goal-scoring momentum, netting a goal approximately every 10 minutes. Benzema and Bale scored once more, while substitute Asensio delivered the final blow. At this point, Ancelotti chose to call off the assault, not wishing to let his main players further unleash their scoring desires on a thoroughly outmatched opponent. Ultimately, Real Madrid triumphed 7-0 over Valencia, elevating their league record for the season to 23 wins and 1 draw. Barcelona also displayed tenacity in their last 2 matches, securing back-to-back victories and preventing Real Madrid from extending their lead further. However, Atletico Madrid faced 2 consecutive draws, resulting in a disheartening 17-point gap from Real Madrid. The dream of clinching the league title this season for Atletico has been utterly extinguished. Meanwhile, Barcelona's decline in the league appears imminent. End of chapter. Chapter 422. These 3 men will not allow Real Madrid to fall. Following the match against Valencia, Real Madrid has concluded a rather comfortable stretch of fixtures. Next, they will face a grueling schedule of 4 matches within 10 days, comprising 3 La Liga encounters and a Champions League knockout clash against Borussia Dortmund. At the forefront of this challenge stands Villarreal, a formidable obstacle on Real Madrid's path. The Yellow Submarine has showcased remarkable competitiveness in La Liga over recent seasons, consistently finishing within the top 6. Last season, they secured a commendable 4th place, earning a spot in the Champions League playoffs. Although they ultimately succumbed to Monaco with an aggregate score of 2-3 in this summer's playoffs, failing to advance to the group stage. Monaco's subsequent progression to the round of 16, where they narrowly lost 3-4 to Manchester City, elucidates that Villarreal is not lacking in strength to compete at the highest level. Rather, they were unfortunate in their playoff draw against a Monaco side that possesses the caliber of a top-tier team. From this perspective, Villarreal's defeat seems less unjust, and their competitive spirit displayed during the playoffs serves as a testament to their prowess. Real Madrid, undoubtedly, will not underestimate Villarreal, one of the few rivals capable of applying pressure in La Liga. However, on the match day of February 26th, Villarreal surprised Madrid significantly on their home turf. Just 9 minutes into the first half, Gerard Trigueros, a midfielder who scored only 2 goals last season, astonished everyone with a stunning long-range strike from a distance of 35 meters. Even the likes of Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, renowned for their striking abilities, could only marvel at such a spectacular goal. In Trigueros' own admission, he might concede that his long-range shot was largely due to a lack of passing options. Villarreal's fortune shone brightly as they netted such a remarkable goal early in the match, placing Real Madrid in a precarious position. The prospect of a counterattack was dashed, leaving Madrid with no choice but to commit players forward in an attempt to equalize before halftime. Yet, such an aggressive offensive strategy carries inherent risks. Even Real Madrid, renowned for their attacking prowess, would be cautious, as evidenced by Chelsea's defensive capabilities last season, which could not guarantee safety against counterattacks. While Villarreal's attacking prowess ranks 6th in La Liga, their defensive capabilities are among the top 3. Indeed, this season, Villarreal boasts one of the most resolute defenses in La Liga, second only to Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, with Barcelona falling short in comparison. This solid defensive foundation equips Villarreal well for counterattacks, perfectly suited to exploit Real Madrid's forward push, as they compact their formation to thwart the advances of Madrid's attacking stars, while simultaneously intensifying their counterattacking efforts on the flanks. The tension persisted until the 28th minute of the first half, when Villarreal seized yet another golden opportunity. The striker, Bakambu, exhibited remarkable speed, swiftly outpacing Casemiro after receiving a diagonal pass from his teammate during a counterattack. At that moment, Leon was hastily retreating from midfield, and under normal circumstances, he would have been in position to intercept Bakambu as he approached Real Madrid's penalty area. However, perhaps fearing Leon's imminent intervention, Bakambu opted to shoot from a distance of no less than 27 meters from the goal. Such a strike should have posed little challenge for Navas. Yet as Ramos, adhering to his defensive duties, attempted to block the ball with his thigh, an unforeseen twist occurred. The deflection caused by Ramos's thigh left Navas helpless against the altered trajectory of the ball. As the ball hit the net once more, the diminutive Estadio de la Ceramica transformed into a jubilant sea of Villarreal supporters celebrating their triumph. The away team, Real Madrid, found themselves grappling with their first defeat of the new season. Ramos, who had inadvertently contributed to the mishap, bit his lip and shook his head in remorse. However, there was no time to soothe his guilt, as Leon and Cristiano Ronaldo were already rallying the team's spirits with fervent shouts. In such moments, self-recrimination serves no purpose. Dwelling on regret would only exacerbate the dire state of the match. Like Ronaldo, Leon chose to lift his head and press forward. For only by advancing could they hope to turn the tide in this precarious situation. Time was of the essence. Yet Leon refrained from instructing his teammates to launch an all-out offensive. Although Real Madrid's earlier aggressive play had yielded some success, the final touches had often lacked the necessary fortune. What seemed a sound tactical choice in a normal context became flawed under the current pressure, failing to secure the desired outcome for Real Madrid. Thus, Leon resolved to temper the attacking pace, providing a clear signal to his teammates that their core player was actively seeking to rectify the match's course. Without further ado, Leon's tactical decision afforded the front players more time to contemplate and adjust. The defenders gradually eased their anxieties. No longer preoccupied with the sporadic threats posed by their opponents' counterattacks and fortunate shots. Once stability was regained, Leon opted to collaborate with Modric to push the attacking line forward. Indeed, the focus was on maintaining composure. Leon preferred a reduced attacking threat over plunging into a chaotic defensive situation. Under this strategy of minimizing errors while advancing steadily, Real Madrid's technical superiority soon began to manifest against Villarreal. Villarreal's impressive defense stemmed from their players' proactive attitude, complemented by the exceptional coaching and tactical framework established by their management. To assert the individual prowess of their defensive players is to indulge in folly. The capabilities of Villarreal's midfield and defensive players can only be deemed mediocre within the context of La Liga. The commendable performances they have exhibited over recent seasons can largely be attributed to the strength of their collective team effort. Engaging with such a team presents its challenges, yet it is also deceptively simple. Leon's current strategy of gradual advancement aims to first suppress Villarreal as a whole, before exploiting specific areas to gain an advantage. When the decisive factor of the match shifts from the collective to the individual capabilities within localized regions, the scales of fortune will tilt in favor of Real Madrid. Leon himself has joined the offensive penetration in these confined spaces, exhibiting patience while continually urging his teammates to diligently seek opportunities. Thus, Villarreal's defenders found themselves progressively isolated from the system through Real Madrid's suppressive tactics. They began to feel immense defensive pressure, and Leon, known for his tactical prowess in exploiting mismatches, showed no mercy, as he, alongside his two-star wingers, took turns to outmaneuver Villarreal's fullbacks. Their seemingly resilient defense finally succumbed to a breach. In the stoppage time of the first half, Leon seized an opportunity, receiving a deft lob from Bale. Penetrating into Villarreal's penalty area, faced with the approaching center-back, Victor Ruiz, Leon opted for yet another lob, skillfully evading Ruiz's challenge as he lifted the ball just before it touched the ground. In the next instant, he deftly positioned his left leg and unleashed a powerful volley. This unstoppable shot from within the box left Villarreal's goalkeeper, Asenjo, utterly helpless. Real Madrid had finally managed to pull one back just before the halftime whistle, alleviating the pressure for the second half. During the interval, Ancelotti devoted all his brief adjustment time to strategic offensive planning. As the second half commenced, Leon exhibited remarkable dynamism and eagerness to push forward. He increased his dribbling attempts, repeatedly seeking to penetrate deep into Villarreal's defensive territory with his exceptional individual skills. This assertive offensive posture evidently incensed Villarreal's defenders. Consequently, Leon began to control the ball while drawing fouls, leading Real Madrid to earn more set-piece opportunities in the attacking third than in the first half. In the initial two set pieces, Real Madrid opted for passes aimed at winning headers. Benzema and Ramos each managed to make contact, yet neither could direct the ball within the goalless confines. It was only during the third set-piece opportunity of the second half that Cristiano Ronaldo positioned himself at the ball, indicating his intent to take the free kick directly. The weight of expectation upon him was immense, with countless fans around the globe fixated on him through live broadcasts. Leon and his teammates advanced to the forefront of Villarreal's penalty area as a tactical diversion. However, in a moment of brilliance, Ronaldo struck with a precise and unanswerable long-range free kick, breaching Villarreal's goal without allowing Leon and the others to implement their subsequent offensive strategies. In the 63rd minute of the second half, Real Madrid equalized the score, demonstrating an undeniable momentum. As for Villarreal, despite the players' resilient spirits, they found it increasingly difficult to withstand such pressure. Tastefully savoring their advantage, Ancelotti instructed Leon to persist in attacking Villarreal's defense. This strategy, while overt, proved effective, compelling Villarreal to resort to foul tactics to disrupt Leon's progress. By the 74th minute, Villarreal's midfielder, Jadonado Santos, appeared to have reached his boiling point and directly fouled Leon, who promptly fell to the ground once more. In the face of this set-piece opportunity skewed towards the flanks, Cristiano Ronaldo graciously yielded the responsibility to Modric, who took a moment to assess the situation. Leon once again surged into Villarreal's penalty area alongside his teammates, their eager anticipation sending shivers through the ranks of over 20,000 home supporters. Swiftly, Modric delivered the ball toward the far post of Villarreal's box, where Leon and Benzema leaped simultaneously, attracting the attention of most defenders. However, neither managed to make contact with the ball. Yet lurking behind them was Ramos, who executed a low, gliding header, firmly directing the ball into the near corner of the net. In that instant, countless fans erupted in joyous celebration before their screens. Ramos, having redeemed himself, fervently pounded his chest, roaring as he dashed towards the corner flag. Following closely were Leon and Cristiano, equally exhilarated as they embraced him. The live broadcast captured the triumphant trio perfectly, and in that moment, the faith of the supporters in these three men reached its zenith. As long as they were present on the pitch, Real Madrid would undoubtedly emerge victorious. Chapter completed. Chapter 423. The Grim Reaper calls. Next up is the Southern King. A stirring comeback battle has the power to elevate the morale of the triumphant team from the depths to the pinnacle, while simultaneously shattering the spirits of those who were overturned. At this moment, the Real Madrid players rallied around the three core figures who orchestrated this remarkable turnaround. Their spirits soared, emboldened and seemingly unafraid of any future challenges they might encounter on the field. Conversely, Villarreal, the team that had been overturned, found itself enveloped in a state of despondency, with morale plummeting and difficult to revive. After all, they had previously enjoyed a flawless start, yet failed to seize the opportunity to maintain their lead, ultimately succumbing to Real Madrid's relentless comeback. The deficit on the scoreboard was momentarily inconsequential. The profound psychological blow inflicted upon Villarreal was the more severe punishment. With morale in freefall, no one was willing to step forward and rally the team, leaving the players to fend for themselves, resulting in yet another devastating blow. Substitute Isco, who entered the fray, executed a sublime exchange with Leon and Benzema through two seamless passes in the 86th minute of the second half. He then surged into Villarreal's penalty area, delivering a low shot that found the back of the net once more. Ultimately, the score settled at 4-2. Real Madrid averted disaster, orchestrating a remarkable comeback on the road against the formidable Villarreal. Having navigated this challenging match, the team now faces relatively less daunting opponents in the upcoming two rounds of La Liga, namely Las Palmas, currently positioned 13th, and Eibar, sitting 8th. On paper, both teams appear to pose minimal threat to Real Madrid. However, the close call against Villarreal serves as a resonant reminder for the entire squad. While the adversaries may lack exceptional prowess, history has shown that even the mightiest teams can falter due to complacency. Thus, as they sprint towards the title, vigilance remains paramount. No emphasis on the importance of heightened awareness can be overstated. After a brief two-day respite following the Villarreal encounter, Real Madrid welcomed Las Palmas to their home ground. In this fixture, Ancelotti prudently opted not to rotate his key players. Fortunately, prior matches had seen effective squad rotation, ensuring that even during this intense phase, the star players would not feel undue pressure. At 20:30 Madrid time, the match of the 25th round of La Liga commenced punctually. Perhaps the near upset against Villarreal instilled a sense of confidence in the Las Palmas squad, as they boldly sought to challenge Real Madrid from the outset. Their audacious approach, particularly in eschewing a defensive posture against such a formidable opponent, delighted the Real Madrid players. However, when it came to controlling midfield, Las Palmas proved to be no match for Real Madrid. Once Leon and Casemiro regained possession, Real Madrid deftly exploited their technical superiority to dismantle Las Palmas' high pressing. The latter's pressure was ultimately superficial, lacking the capacity to sustain a high-intensity pressing game due to insufficient defensive strength in localized areas and average stamina. Consequently, before Real Madrid's players could fully engage, Las Palmas' high-pressing strategy quickly unraveled. The spectacle elicited amusement from the home fans. In response, having exhausted their initial offensive attempts, it was now Real Madrid's turn to probe for an offensive breakthrough. Las Palmas, however, did not relinquish midfield control without contest. They battled fiercely in the midfield before decisively retracting their formation. At this juncture, Las Palmas adeptly transitioned from their original high-pressing 4-1-4-1 setup to a more compact 4-5-1 formation. Upon observing the match, Leon quickly discerned that Sishan, the head coach of Las Palmas, possessed a certain level of skill. It was evident that he had come prepared. However, after testing the defensive fortitude of Las Palmas midfield and backline, Leon began to question the true extent of Sishan's capabilities. The tactic of crowding the midfield for defense was hardly novel. The rarity lay in the ability to create intensity and depth through such a strategy. Take Atletico Madrid, for instance, who similarly deploy 5 midfielders. In the current football landscape, only Chelsea and Real Madrid's attacking units can truly contend at this level. Against Atletico, even Barcelona and Bayern Munich would find themselves in a precarious 50-50 scenario. Should Atletico score first, the situation would swiftly deteriorate to a dire 1-19 split. Las Palmas' 5-man midfield mirrored their initial high-pressing strategy. It appeared formidable yet, in reality, only one midfielder was capable of effectively intercepting from a deeper position. Lacking the vertical defensive thickness that 3 holding midfielders would provide, the lateral pressing coverage was insufficient, at least for Leon. Penetrating such a midfield barrier and establishing connections with his forward line seemed relatively straightforward. Nonetheless, in an effort to avert the bizarre goal concessions witnessed in the previous league match, Leon refrained from hastily urging his teammates to advance aggressively, opting instead to maintain a measured rhythm. Even after Real Madrid fully seized control of the midfield, he delegated the organization of attacks to his partner, Modric, while focusing more on interception and defensive duties amid his forward incursions. The efficacy of his tactical choices became patently clear. He effectively stifled Las Palmas' build-up, thwarting their attempts at launching efficient counterattacks. Under Modric's calm orchestration, Real Madrid's offensive momentum flourished, leading to the early breaking of the deadlock in the 23rd minute of the first half. Striking first was not one of the illustrious BBC forwards, but rather Marcelo, the 4th winger in Real Madrid's starting lineup. Marcelo showcased remarkable activity in the attacking phase, prompting Cristiano Ronaldo to frequently adjust his positioning to create space for his side partner. A player capable of coaxing Ronaldo to yield an attack could be deemed a true favorite. Marcelo, having been granted ample attacking opportunities, did not disappoint his teammates. His sudden cutting in and decisive shots caught the Las Palmas defense off guard. Following this goal, Real Madrid's subsequent offensive efforts flowed with even greater ease. The veteran goalkeeper of Las Palmas, Barris, emerged as the most sympathetic figure of the match, having seen his net breached 6 times. Truly a harrowing experience. Witnessing the plight of the opposing goalkeeper, Leon's desire to pursue further offensive endeavors waned, resulting in a solitary assist throughout the match. However, his defensive contributions, amounting to an impressive 13 effective interceptions, dazzled the spectators. This achievement also set a new record for the most effective tackles by a player in a single match of La Liga this season. When viewed in the context of the top 4 leagues, Liang's remarkable 13 tackles in a single match only places him second. This is due to the fact that, just recently, Kanté achieved an extraordinary 14 tackles in a single Premier League match. In terms of defensive efficiency, the duo of Kanté and Matic this season certainly ranks as the pinnacle of defensive midfielders in football. The combination of Liang and Casemiro, however, excels in maintaining a more balanced approach between offense and defense. Yet, when solely considering defensive prowess, it is worth noting that while Liang's abilities may be set aside for the moment, Casemiro's defensive capabilities still fall slightly short when compared to both peak Matic and Kanté. Nevertheless, even though Kanté has experienced a significant surge in defensive statistics this season with Chelsea, naturally establishing himself as the most formidable ball-recovering machine in the entire Premier League, the majority of fans would still cast their votes for Liang as the strongest defensive midfielder in the sport. Perhaps some fans may offer more analytical assessments. But it must be acknowledged that Liang's 2 Ballon d'Or awards have undoubtedly enhanced his standing in the eyes of many. Upon returning to Real Madrid this season, the noticeable enhancement in the team's defensive solidity has not gone unnoticed by fans worldwide. He has become the linchpin in the minds of both the coaching staff and the entire squad. With his presence, the baseline performance of Real Madrid in every match seems assured, leading him to emerge as the unique focal point of the team during the crucial stages of the season. This is true for both offensive and defensive play, as he is the sole star among Real Madrid's illustrious lineup, who does not require rest and consistently delivers stable performances. Following a resounding 6-0 victory against Las Palmas, the coaching staff arranged for most of the key players to rest in preparation for the Champions League knockout match 6 days later. Lyon, however, continued his preparations alongside the substitute teammates for the 26th round of La Liga against Eibar. In this match, Real Madrid was on the road, and the modest Ipurua Municipal Stadium, which can accommodate only 7,000 spectators, provided Lyon with a new perspective. During his time in the Segunda Division, Eibar was competing in the Segunda División, and it was only after his departure from Real Madrid that Eibar ascended to La Liga. Thus, this marked Lyon's first visit to Eibar's home ground, which is the smallest stadium he has encountered since his debut in the Segunda División. Despite its size, the atmosphere created by the loyal Eibar fans was anything but small. Currently positioned within the top 10 of La Liga and enjoying the advantage of playing at home, Eibar faced Real Madrid with no trepidation, displaying an active and brave performance without being overly reckless. Learning from the bitter defeat against Las Palmas, Eibar undoubtedly proved to be an intriguing opponent. However, the proud Real Madrid they envisioned did not materialize under Liang's orchestrations. Real Madrid exhibited a similarly composed and cautious style of play. The rare starting opportunities afforded to Vasquez and Isco saw them diligently tracking back on the wings. Throughout the first half, Real Madrid primarily sought to assert absolute control over the midfield, with the forward line consisting almost exclusively of Asensio, who played in a false nine role. Real Madrid was intent on avoiding mistakes, while Eibar was equally cautious, unwilling to concede a goal due to recklessness. Thus, both teams refrained from unleashing a sustained offensive onslaught. As the halftime interval approached, neither side managed to break the deadlock, with the score remaining at 0-0. It was not until the second half commenced that Real Madrid's Leon and James switched positions, taking up roles as central midfielders, which heralded the onset of their attacking fervor. Leon, in particular, initiated the offensive, demonstrating a more menacing dribbling prowess compared to James. Eibar's defense appeared somewhat unprepared for Real Madrid's aggressive opening tactics. Leon's successive forays into the attack created scoring opportunities, and his powerful shot from outside the box earned Real Madrid their first corner of the second half. With Pepe and Ramos sidelined, Varane stood as the only towering figure in Real Madrid's defense. However, when Eibar's defenders anticipated that Isco would target Varane or Leon from the corner, he instead executed a strategically placed corner kick towards the edge of the Eibar penalty area. Positioned perfectly, James opted for an audacious volley, striking the ball with considerable force. Eibar's starting goalkeeper, Rodriguez, relying on his vast experience, correctly predicted the direction of James's shot and managed to deflect it. Yet, in the following moment, Leon skillfully maneuvered past Eibar's defenders to intercept the ball, sending it hurtling towards the goal. By now, Rodriguez was powerless to intervene, having already landed on the ground. The ball found the net, and Leon emerged once more as the hero, restoring the team's morale with his goal amidst a significant lineup rotation. Eibar paid the price for their cautious approach, and as Real Madrid tightened their formation to emphasize counter-attacking play after scoring, Eibar had no choice but to press forward. Consequently, Real Madrid, leveraging their adeptness at counterattacks, extended their lead, though the resilient Eibar managed to score a consolation goal. With the victory secured, Real Madrid celebrated another away win and continued to solidify their commanding lead in the league ahead of their upcoming Champions League knockout match against Borussia Dortmund. On the evening of March 7th, Real Madrid faced Dortmund, who were in a do-or-die situation, trailing by 4 goals from the first leg. The fans had little hope for a turnaround in the second leg. They simply wished for their players to restore some dignity, hoping to showcase their prowess at Real Madrid's home ground. The Dortmund players shared a similar sentiment, and after a tactical failure in the first leg, Tuchel resolved to adopt a straightforward approach. He organized his lineup and offensive tactics earnestly, pushing forward relentlessly from the outset in search of an early goal. Meanwhile, Real Madrid, playing at home, could not afford to remain passive. They actively sought opportunities to counterattack. Both teams refrained from adopting a conservative approach today, resulting in a captivating match. At least in terms of the offensive and defensive rhythm, both sides left the fans who watched the game thoroughly satisfied. Borussia Dortmund, taking a gamble, was the first to find the net. However, just 6 minutes after their goal, Real Madrid steadied themselves and equalized through a set-piece opportunity in the attacking third. Thereafter, Real Madrid seized the chance presented by Dortmund's aggressive push, scoring 2 swift goals on the counterattack to further extend their lead. Dortmund managed to pull one back in the 68th minute of the second half, which turned out to be the final goal of the match, concluding the score at 3-2. Real Madrid triumphed in both legs, securing an aggregate score of 7-2 against Dortmund, forcefully advancing to the quarterfinals of this season's Champions League. The calamity faced by Dortmund serves as a warning to other continental powerhouses. Real Madrid's dominance has also heightened anticipation among fans for a potential ultimate showdown between Real Madrid and Chelsea in this year's Champions League. With the round of 16 in the Champions League officially concluded, the freshly minted quarterfinalists await the upcoming draw ceremony. During this period, Real Madrid hosted Real Betis in another round of La Liga, achieving a modest victory of 2-0, with Lyon making a long-awaited return by scoring twice and taking the spotlight in the attack. On March 17th, the draw for the quarterfinals of the Champions League commenced, when Real Madrid was drawn in the first round, ultimately being matched against Bayern Munich. Gasps of astonishment echoed from the audience and viewers alike. The European derby is set to commence, even before the quarterfinals. Bayern and Real Madrid have become familiar adversaries in recent Champions League encounters, and Lyon is particularly well acquainted with the Bayern players. Perhaps due to this familiarity, Lyon showed no restraint on social media. On the evening of March 17th, he updated his social media with no text, only an image of the Grim Reaper, adorned with the Real Madrid emblem, wielding a scythe and relentlessly knocking on the dressing room door. Adjacent to the dressing room that had already been ravaged by the Grim Reaper, its doors flung wide open, stood Bayern Munich. Chapter 424. Before facing Bayern in the knockout stages, we must first secure the La Liga title. Has UEFA lost its mind this year? Real Madrid against Bayern. Chelsea against Atletico. One misstep could lead to disaster. I can only imagine the financial losses UEFA would suffer if the final does not feature Real Madrid facing Chelsea. It may not be so dramatic. Bayern and Atletico's strength has significantly waned in recent years. I believe the gap between these two teams and Real Madrid, as well as Chelsea, remains considerable. As long as Mourinho and Ancelotti devise the correct tactics, advancing should not pose a problem. Is UEFA really trying to ensure that Monaco makes a deep run, allowing this dark horse to continue its surprising journey? They've drawn Leicester City. If Monaco indeed reaches the Champions League semi-finals, this summer transfer window is bound to get lively. What does it matter to reach the semi-finals? Monaco can no longer create waves. The era when a group of youngsters secured the Champions League title is a thing of the past. I hold greater faith in Juventus, who, despite previous disappointments, have grown more composed and seasoned. Their defensive performance this year has indeed been commendable. Following the draw for the round of 16 in the Champions League, fans from around the globe eagerly shared their opinions on the matchups, with some even making fresh predictions for advancement. In contrast, Lyon's recent endeavors on social media have not sparked much enthusiasm within the fan community. After all, he engages in such activities annually before significant matches, which fans enjoy, but the novelty diminishes with repetition. Moreover, the encounters between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich, particularly Lyon's frequent clashes with Bayern, have become rather tiresome for spectators over recent seasons. Monaco's remarkable journey into the Champions League round of 16 and their underdog status in the quarterfinals have undoubtedly garnered more attention from fans. New rising stars like Mbappe, Bernardo Silva, and Bakayoko have also brought a refreshing vigor to the football scene, especially Mbappe, whose stunning performance of scoring in 3 consecutive knockout matches at just 18 years old has swiftly attracted the attention of esteemed clubs. At this moment, many fans recalled Lyon's high praise for this young French player earlier in the season. At that time, many joked that Monaco must be financially constrained to rely on a 17-year-old as a key player. Lyon's remarks were often interpreted as him defending a player who idolizes Real Madrid and Cristiano Ronaldo. However, reflecting now on Lyon's astute assessment of Mbappé, fans can only marvel at the almost mystical power of his words. On March 17th, when Lyon attended a pre-match press conference for La Liga's 28th round alongside Ancelotti, a reporter inquired about his views on Mbappé's future, a question seemingly unrelated to La Liga. Lyon appeared momentarily taken aback, but soon responded with a smile. Kylian will undoubtedly become a flagship player for French football. I believe I expressed this viewpoint months ago. Just observe his performances on the field, and you will see I am not jesting. He scored in the Champions League at 17, and at 18, he has netted in 3 consecutive knockout matches. He is a player born for the grand stage. Lyon's confident endorsement of Mbappé clearly satisfied the querying journalist. When asked again about UEFA's decision to pit Real Madrid against Bayern Munich, Lyon reiterated his unwavering confidence in his team's progression. I respect Bayern Munich and all teams participating in this year's Champions League, but without a doubt, the victor will be Real Madrid. I am resolute in this belief. Lyon's candid remarks instantly invigorated the reporters present, while Ancelotti appeared somewhat exasperated yet refrained from curbing Lyon's declaration of championship ambition. Following Lyon's statements, it was inevitable that external pressures would mount on Real Madrid. However, for the battle-hardened stars within the team, this very pressure served as a formidable impetus to propel them forward with renewed vigor. Athletic Bilbao undeniably posed yet another formidable obstacle on Real Madrid's path in the league. Yet such a resilient team could also aid Real Madrid in sharpening their own competitive edge. On the afternoon of March 18th, as they visited the San Mamés Stadium, Real Madrid took the initiative, utilizing Bilbao's tenacious defensive approach to refine their offensive strategies. In this league match, Real Madrid should have opted for a more cautious style of play, given Bilbao's steadfast defensive resolve and their potent counterattacks. By pressing forward aggressively, Real Madrid inadvertently granted Bilbao ample opportunities for counterplay. In the 21st minute of the first half, after absorbing significant defensive risks, Athletic Bilbao seized a crucial opportunity during a transition, with Raul Garcia netting a goal from a counterattack. Adjura's header back into the box was pivotal. Despite his unassuming stature and lack of speed, this seasoned striker exhibited remarkable strength as a focal point. The entire Bilbao squad executed their tactical plan with precision, withstanding Real Madrid's pressure and scoring first, a testament to their defensive resilience and decisive counterattacks. Nevertheless, no Real Madrid player appeared flustered, having chosen a more proactive attacking approach. They were mentally prepared for the possibility of conceding an early goal. Moreover, a single goal conceded would not shake the players' determination to secure victory. Upon resuming play, Lyon did not opt to stabilize the team's formation or control the game. Instead, he continuously orchestrated forward movements in attack. Prior to the match, the coaching staff had established a more aggressive tactical framework, and with Ancelotti not signaling for players to solidify their defense, Lyon was tasked with fully implementing the coaching strategy and unifying the team's tactical mindset. Seeing Lyon's unwavering commitment to offense reassured the other Real Madrid players, prompting them to maintain their high-pressing and relentless pursuit. With Lyon and Modric collaborating to distribute possession, the tempo of Real Madrid's attacks quickened. An increase in attacking phases naturally led to more opportunities for the forwards, perhaps due to the gradual aging in recent years. The BBC trio displayed a noticeable sluggishness in their match rhythm. In the first 20 minutes, while Real Madrid dominated possession against Bilbao, Lyon and his midfield and defensive partners had already generated numerous attacking chances. However, Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale seemed to lack that final touch in front of goal, and Benzema's struggles were even more pronounced, as he could hardly find his shooting accuracy today. As he executed a close-range strike within the opposing penalty area merely 2 minutes into the match, only to send the ball soaring, Lyon realized that relying on the striker today would be futile. Fortunately, his seasoned teammates, although somewhat slow to warm up in their gameplay, still managed to find their rhythm. With an increase in shot attempts, the forms of Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale were evidently on the mend. Observing this, Lyon refrained from passing directly to the duo, as that would make their intentions too conspicuous. Athletic Bilbao would undoubtedly tighten their defensive focus. Thus, Lyon swiftly signaled Benzema to withdraw from the penalty area to receive the ball, drawing the Bilbao defense out of position. Though the striker was unreliable in finishing today, he did not disappoint in supporting play. His back-to-goal layoffs and lateral passes were executed with finesse, granting both Lyon and Bale opportunities to strike from outside the box. Consequently, the defenders of Athletic Bilbao were compelled to intensify their marking on Benzema. Real Madrid persisted patiently until the 38th minute of the first half. At that moment, Lyon received a return pass from Bale and began to dribble laterally in search of a passing opportunity. Athletic Bilbao's defensive midfielder, Itursp, was tenacious in his attempts to engage Lyon in close combat. His defense appeared successful, as Lyon opted to shield the ball, then gestured for Benzema to pull away from the box to receive it. This time, Bilbao's center-back, Laporte, resolutely followed him outside the penalty area, intent on thwarting Benzema's chance to receive the ball. Yet, in an instant, Lyon surged forward, pushing past Itursp and deftly curling the ball with his left foot into the center of Athletic Bilbao's penalty area. A troubling thought flickered through Laporte's mind. He turned to see Cristiano Ronaldo, determinately advancing, leaping off the ground and overpowering his shorter defensive partner, Alvarez, to execute a header. The ball, after bouncing, inevitably found its way into the net. Athletic Bilbao's goalkeeper, Kepa, was a fraction too slow to react, failing to intercept Ronaldo's header. Once again, the formidable attacking duo of Lyon and Ronaldo had connected, rescuing Real Madrid from the brink. Following the successful equalizer, Lyon decisively chose to stabilize the situation. At that moment, Ancelotti on the sidelines made tactical adjustments that mirrored Lyon's own emphasis on fortifying their defensive line. The two teams thus entered halftime with a score of 1-1. As the second half commenced, the home team, Athletic Bilbao, aimed to seize the initiative. Yet Real Madrid appeared unfazed, adopting a defensive posture that showed no fear of Bilbao's aggressive onslaught. This tactic of exhausting the opponent's stamina and energy was one that the entire Real Madrid squad was well acquainted with. After retreating for about 20 minutes, Real Madrid gradually regained control of the match's tempo, pushing Bilbao back into their half. At this juncture, Real Madrid's offensive strategy was refreshingly straightforward, launching simultaneous attacks from both flanks, combining wide play with central penetration, and vying for opportunities within the penalty area. In simpler terms, they were set to unleash the art of crossing. At this moment, Casemiro is positioned almost parallel to Pepe, as Ramos strides boldly into the Athletic Bilbao penalty area, eager to partake in the aerial assault. Marcelo and Carvajal alternately receive the ball on the flanks, relentlessly crossing it, while Athletic Bilbao finds itself suffocated by Real Madrid's brute force crossing tactics. Laporte is a versatile central defender, yet despite his prowess, he cannot single-handedly safeguard the entire backline when his teammates lack the requisite strength. In the 82nd minute of the second half, Ramos successfully intercepts in the center of the Athletic Bilbao penalty area, but his header is swiftly parried by Kepa. Before Laporte can seize the opportunity for a second clearance, the swifter Lyon has already executed a close-range shot, sending the ball into the net of Athletic Bilbao. At that moment, the vast San Mamés stadium falls nearly silent. After scoring the decisive goal, Lyon sprints to the corner flag area, collapsing onto the ground as his exuberant teammates rush to engulf him in celebration. The defenders of Athletic Bilbao stand in their penalty area, shaking their heads in resignation. They have indeed exerted themselves, but the overall strength of Real Madrid far eclipses their own. This defeat in a direct contest is indisputable, and no player can escape the reality of inferiority. After a passionate celebration on the sidelines with Zidane, Ancelotti promptly makes substitutions, opting for a 5-defender formation. Real Madrid ultimately maintains the 2-1 scoreline until the halftime whistle. Undoubtedly, this is an exhilarating comeback that significantly boosts morale. It echoes the remarkable reversal against Villarreal at the end of February. Following such a hard-fought victory, the entire Real Madrid squad experiences a surge in spirit, subsequently triumphing over their opponents with considerable margins in the ensuing league matches. Alaves first succumbed to 4 goals, only for Leganés, who followed, to suffer an even graver defeat, falling to a staggering 7-0 at home against Real Madrid. After concluding the Champions League round of 16, Real Madrid continues its impressive streak with 4 consecutive victories in La Liga, elevating their league points to a remarkable 88. With an unbeaten record of 29 wins and 1 draw, they stand unrivaled across all major leagues, leaving no glimmer of hope for their rivals. Meanwhile, Barcelona, having also secured 2 consecutive victories, boasts a record of 21 wins, 6 draws, and 3 losses, which, while respectable, places them a daunting 19 points behind Real Madrid in the standings. Atletico Madrid, with a record of 19 wins, 7 draws, and 4 losses, finds itself in an even bleaker position, trailing Real Madrid by an astonishing 24 points, equivalent to a full 8-match victory margin. In 3 days, Atletico will face their second Madrid derby of the season. However, the significance of this match has diminished for both Atletico and Real Madrid. The merengues are eagerly calculating the latest possible round in which they might secure the championship title, even if Barcelona were to win every remaining match. Real Madrid needs only to triumph in 2 more league encounters to celebrate the success of the season in advance. It has been nearly 4 years since Mourinho and Leon departed from Real Madrid, and the club has been yearning for the La Liga title for almost 4 long years, an agonizing wait indeed. Fortunately, this season, Leon chose to return, bringing with him the long-lost glory of the championship to Real Madrid. As the match date approached, the players united in their rallying cry for victory. Before facing Bayern in the next round of the knockout stage, we must first secure the La Liga title. Chapter 225. Not dominating the field, yet capable of scoring before commencing the UEFA Champions League quarterfinal against Bayern. Real Madrid needed to complete their La Liga match against Deportivo La Coruña in the 31st round. In the previous match against Leganés, Ancelotti had already rotated most of the key players, and considering that there would be a full 4 days of rest after the 31st round, Real Madrid sent out their full-strength squad to challenge La Coruña on the afternoon of April 7th. This certainly left the entire La Coruña team in a state of trepidation. Facing a fully starting Real Madrid, what difference would home field advantage make for them? Could they really hope to stage an upset against the European giants, who sat at the pinnacle of the league? Regrettably, they were simply incapable of such a feat. It cannot be blamed on La Coruña's premature anxiety. The disparity in strength between them and Real Madrid is indeed vast. The allure of challenging Real Madrid is undeniable. Yet this daunting task has been attempted by the other 19 La Liga teams, including La Coruña, all of which have ended in failure. Real Madrid's terrifying record of 29 wins and 1 draw looms over the entire La Liga like a colossal mountain, imposing relentless pressure on the remaining teams. The psychological burden rendered La Coruña's approach much like that of Leganés in the previous round, choosing a defensive and conservative style from the outset. Such tactics transformed Riazor Stadium into a mere training ground for Real Madrid's offensive maneuvers. Observing the one-sided nature of the match from the sidelines, Ancelotti felt no concern. After pacing a few times, he settled comfortably into his coaching seat. Real Madrid's offensive onslaught unfolded with remarkable ease, as the absence of midfield contention allowed Leon and Modric to seamlessly distribute the ball to the flanks. The ensuing scene resembled a fully grown man swinging his arms to strike a small child. The already frail child initially managed to hold on for a moment, but soon revealed more defensive flaws. Unable to retaliate, it was only a matter of time before being knocked down. Leon displayed remarkable composure in midfield, showcasing the poise of a seasoned general, yet showed little enthusiasm for attacking. Many neutral fans, witnessing this scene, jokingly remarked that Leon was holding back against La Coruña in deference to the revered Benevolent. Otherwise, given Leon's stellar performance in the previous match against Leganés, where he provided 2 assists and scored 2 goals, one could reasonably expect him to be involved in at least 3 goals against the weaker La Coruña. Ultimately, Leon did not register any personal statistics in the match against La Coruña. The entire Real Madrid squad appeared to conserve their energy, having scored 3 goals against Deportivo La Coruña before slowing their pace and easing off in attack. One could argue that prior to the clash with Bayern Munich, Real Madrid effectively engaged in a beneficial training match within the league. Although their opponents were somewhat inferior, it served as an ideal practice session, allowing key players to avoid excessive fatigue while maintaining their competitive edge, a perfect balance. In contrast, Bayern faced a more challenging situation as they encountered their league rivals, Borussia Dortmund, just before the significant showdown with Real Madrid, necessitating a full-throttle effort. Even though Bayern ultimately triumphed over Dortmund with a score of 4-2 at home, the outcome was marred by the injury of Lewandowski, who was substituted in the second half, transforming Bayern's victory into a bittersweet achievement. It is crucial to note that Lewandowski is currently Bayern's sole recognized center forward. His injury compelled the team to shift Müller to the front line. While Müller can indeed play as a striker, he does not possess the same effectiveness in that role as he does in a more advanced position. Consequently, this development slightly tilted the odds in favor of Real Madrid for the impending European derby. On the afternoon of April 11th, the entire Real Madrid squad set off for Munich. Simultaneously, Bayern's coach, Kovac, confirmed in an interview with reporters that Lewandowski would be unable to participate in the first leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. Following this, Kovac and Müller, who attended the pre-match press conference, repeatedly expressed their determination to secure victory against Real Madrid at home. However, the loss of a key player before such a significant match rendered it difficult for Bayern's fans to muster confidence. Given Bayern's aging squad, the disparity in overall strength compared to Real Madrid was already considerable, and the absence of a primary center-forward exacerbated this gap. Thus, upon their arrival in Munich, Real Madrid exhibited a remarkably modest demeanor. After completing their familiarization with the Allianz Arena, the squad returned to their hotel for rest. The following morning, Real Madrid quietly conducted their final training session at the facility provided by the Munich 1860 club. Journalists from German media were unable to secure interviews with any Real Madrid players prior to the match. This unusual reticence and low profile from the opposition only heightened the anxieties of Bayern's supporters. On the evening of April 12th, amidst eager anticipation and scrutiny, Real Madrid's stars graced the Allianz Arena in Munich. Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema, Modric, Casemiro, Ramos, one by one. These luminaries of contemporary football, renowned for their immense popularity and influence, commenced their final warm-up before the match. Fans worldwide, eagerly watching the live broadcast, were filled with a profound sense of assurance. With these Real Madrid players on the field, they felt no envy toward any other team in football. They had ample reason to believe that their players could triumph in any challenging encounter. This confidence was firmly rooted in Real Madrid's series of resounding victories throughout the season. This narrative is firmly grounded in the classic instances from Real Madrid's season where, despite facing dire adversities, the indomitable spirit and resolve of the entire team ultimately led to remarkable comebacks. In stark contrast, Bayern Munich has navigated this season's league with relative ease. Perhaps the stars on Bayern's roster still embody a resilient competitive spirit and genuinely believe they can triumph over Real Madrid, even in the absence of Lewandowski, leveraging their home ground advantage. Yet, the atmosphere among the home fans today appeared somewhat subdued, while cheers and jeers directed at the Real Madrid players persisted. The fervor simply paled in comparison to the vibrant ambience that Lyon remembered from the Allianz Arena. Time swiftly passed, and soon it was the moment for both teams to conclude their warm-ups and retreat to the locker rooms for final encouragement. The head coaches of both teams had completed their last-minute strategies, leaving no room for further adjustments or retreat. The players promptly took to the pitch, guided by the officiating crew, and as most media speculated prior to the match, Kovac had not orchestrated any grand tactical maneuvers, opting instead for the reliable placement of Müller in the center-forward position. The renowned robbery duo also maintained their starting roles. The sole tactical adjustment lay in the position formerly occupied by Müller. Kovac chose to elevate Vidal into a versatile B2B role, thus maximizing the Chilean's impact in the midfield. The double pivot was formed by Thiago and Javi Martinez. The defensive line remained unchanged, with Boateng partnering Hummels, while Alaba and Lahm flanked them on either side. The starting goalkeeper was Neuer. Real Madrid, too, focused on stability, making minimal alterations in their starting lineup. The only notable change was the selection of Isco as the starting right winger, with Bale remaining on the bench. This choice sparked speculation among numerous journalists present, questioning whether Bale had sustained yet another minor injury before the match. Otherwise, it was challenging to comprehend Ancelotti's rationale for such a lineup. Many fans watching from home also found themselves pondering this development, but with the starting 11 already decided, there was little time left for conjecture about Bale's condition. At 1945 Munich time, the highly anticipated European derby between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich commenced punctually. Bayern, taking the first kick, displayed no trepidation regarding Real Madrid's counter-attacking threats, launching an aggressive offensive right from the outset, spurred on by the fervent cheers of their home supporters. Conversely, Real Madrid appeared somewhat uncharacteristic, refraining from directly countering Bayern and instead opting to establish multiple defensive lines within their half, seemingly intent on gauging the intensity of Bayern's attack. This display of apparent weakness bewildered many neutral spectators. However, the Bayern players were not preoccupied with such nuances, if Real Madrid allowed them to attack. they would unleash an even more ferocious offensive. In that fleeting moment, it seemed as though the Allianz Arena was solely occupied by the relentless assaults of the Bayern players and the increasingly exuberant cheers of their fans. On the pitch, Lyon remained unfazed, continuing to collaborate with Casemiro to thwart Bayern's relentless offensive incursions. Compared to previous years, both Ribery and Robben have noticeably slowed their pace. Yet their ability to penetrate remains undiminished. Their enriched experience and varied rhythms have left Marcelo and Carvajal somewhat bewildered. The duo's ability to break through and distribute the ball has become Bayern's most menacing offensive opportunity in the first 20 minutes of the match. Vidal, making late runs, unleashed several long-range shots and participated in numerous aerial challenges within Real Madrid's penalty area, coupled with Müller's threatening runs and attempts to score. Bayern's offensive display cannot be dismissed as mere noise. It genuinely posed a threat to Real Madrid's goal. The spectators, witnessing their team in such a passive role, were seeing this season's first instance of such a predicament, naturally leading to some unease. However, as Bayern's assault slightly waned in the first half, Real Madrid seized an opportunity to execute their first swift counterattack of the match. This counter was initiated by Ramos, whose long pass from the backfield soared over the entire midfield to find Isco, who was maneuvering along Bayern's flank. At first glance, this did not appear to be a promising counterattack, as Isco was closely marked by Boateng, and the recently involved Alaba was rapidly tracking back. Isco, not particularly known for his speed, led many spectators to feel disheartened, anticipating a swift change of possession. Yet, in this seemingly unfavorable situation, Isco delivered a delightful surprise. Indeed, while he may not excel in speed like Bale, his dribbling, ball protection, and passing abilities are unrivaled. Boateng, believing his pressing would force Isco into a disadvantageous position, was taken aback by Isco's remarkable stability. He managed to withstand Boateng's challenge and keep the ball securely at his feet, prompting an ominous thought to arise in Boateng's mind. However, by the time he attempted to retreat into the penalty area, it was too late. Isco executed a deft half-turn to evade both him and Alaba's joint pressure, swiftly passing the ball to Lyon, who was making a late run into the center. At this moment, Real Madrid's genuine counterattack rang alarm bells for Bayern's defense. Isco drew two Bayern defenders towards him, leaving only Hummels and the cautiously positioned Martinez in the penalty area. Benzema made a diagonal run, forcing Hummels and Martinez to collectively retreat towards the right side of the box. Yet, Lyon's final pass struck a chilling blow to Neuer, who was still directing his teammates' positioning. Lyon passed to Bayern's left flank. Amid the passionate shouts of commentators from various countries, Lyon delivered a perfectly timed over-the-top through ball that synchronized seamlessly with Cristiano Ronaldo's sprint into the Bayern penalty area. Ram was unable to intervene in time and could only passively leap alongside Cristiano Ronaldo to contest the aerial duel. However, his defensive interference proved utterly ineffective against Ronaldo. With great force, Ronaldo executed a powerful header, and the ball ultimately slipped past Neuer's outstretched hand, nestling into the net behind him. Goal. This was Real Madrid's inaugural attempt at a counterattack in the match, and it marked their first shot on target against Bayern. With remarkable efficiency, Real Madrid successfully breached Bayern's defenses. Countless Real Madrid fans around the globe echoed the fervent cheers of the commentator at that moment. They were utterly impressed by Ancelotti's tactical setup for the opening of the match. So what if they were on the back foot? They managed to score first. Chapter 426. Barcelona pay tribute to the La Liga champions. In the 23rd minute of the first half, Real Madrid opened Bayern's goal with their very first shot of the match. Ronaldo, brimming with excitement, pounded his chest near the corner flag, while Lyon laughed heartily, urging his teammates to come celebrate. The live broadcast immediately focused on Ronaldo and Lyon, the dynamic duo of Real Madrid's midfield, who had once again connected successfully, giving their team an early lead in such a crucial match. It is uncertain how many fans had anticipated this moment, as they should have been mentally prepared. Yet, when this splendid reality unfolded, the fans could hardly contain their excitement, jubilantly cheering before their screens. The camera then turned to Isco, who wore a beaming smile, silently illustrating the pivotal role he played on the pitch today as a rotational player for Real Madrid. His exceptional ball control and ability to shield the ball were prerequisites for the counterattack, and his crucial pass to Lyon further underscored his tactical significance. Kovac could never have predicted that Ancelotti would be willing to let Benzema, who could have been a focal point in the attack, serve as a tactical decoy while deploying other players to execute the decisive play. The players and fans of Bayern could hardly fathom this either. At this moment, more neutral fans began to realize that the seemingly unassuming Ancelotti, with his hand on his hip and a raised eyebrow, was indeed a master of deception. He has consistently proven himself to be a world-class tactical mastermind. While one might jest about his occasional bad luck, his tactical acumen is never to be questioned. Kovac may be considered a standout among the new generation of coaches, yet he remains too inexperienced compared to the seasoned Ancelotti. One cannot merely assume that a single goal deficit can be remedied. It is crucial to grasp that we are now in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, facing none other than Real Madrid. Would the audaciously innovative Ancelotti, with a one-goal lead, grant Bayern an opportunity to equalize swiftly? Even the Bayern fans present understood that hoping for such an outcome was utterly unrealistic. The coaching staff of Real Madrid swiftly demonstrated their preparedness for the match. Astonishingly, Isco withdrew from the front line, suggesting a tactical shift to a 4-4-2 formation. Up front, only Cristiano Ronaldo and Benzema remained poised to receive the ball for counterattacks, while Leon and Casemiro settled into defensive midfield positions, with Modric and Isco flanking the midfield. In the domestic broadcast by LuTV Sports, commentator Zhang, alongside partner Jean Jun, expressed surprise at Ancelotti's tactical ingenuity. Isco, while appearing to play as a winger, actually operated as a wide playmaker. In attack, he could move inward to receive the ball, collaborating with Leon and Modric to enhance Real Madrid's midfield control and ball progression during counterattacks. In defense, he would revert to the midfield, further broadening the defensive line and assisting the fullbacks. The classic 4-4-2 formation, when employed for defensive counterattacks, remains timeless. Bayern found themselves bewildered by Real Madrid's tactical reconfiguration, caught in a dilemma. For the Real Madrid supporters watching at home, Ancelotti's adopted strategy felt strikingly familiar. It mirrored the modified 4-4-2 utilized by Mourinho during Kaká's prime. Ancelotti not only embraced this system but also fine-tuned it to better suit the current capabilities of Isco and the present squad. Unlike Kaká, whose athleticism waned post-injury, Isco, in his prime, could contribute significantly on the defensive front. Real Madrid had finally returned to their expected form, executing a defensive counterattack at Bayern's home ground, as anticipated by most fans prior to the match. However, the shifting scoreline rapidly deteriorated Bayern's situation. With aggressive pressing, Bayern's defense was perpetually threatened by Real Madrid's historically potent counterattacking prowess. Opting for a conservative approach and attempting to penetrate the defense, that would only delight Real Madrid, who had already secured an away goal. If Bayern aimed for stability, Real Madrid would gladly engage in a tactical exchange. After a moment of hesitation, Kovac resolved not to be timid and decided to pursue an equalizer, taking calculated risks at home. The players, having received clear tactical instructions from the coaching staff, launched a full-scale offensive upon resuming play. This naturally intensified the defensive pressure on Real Madrid, yet with Leon and Casemiro stationed in front of the penalty area, Ramos and Pepe faced minimal challenges, mainly contending with Müller for aerial dominance. This strategy played to Real Madrid's strengths, as they had earned the reputation of being Europe's aerial supremacy team, largely due to the contributions of Ramos and Pepe. While Müller is undoubtedly one of the top attacking talents in contemporary football, his aerial prowess pales in comparison to that of these two legendary defenders. Under the oppressive grip of a tight defensive strategy, Müller's ability to seize opportunities within the penalty area has been significantly diminished at this juncture. If he does not venture beyond Real Madrid's box, he essentially becomes invisible, rendering him utterly ineffective. Meanwhile, Robben and Ribéry aspire to initiate an offensive rhythm along the flanks. Yet, confronted with a compact defensive line, where 2 or 3 players are poised to apply pressure on each side, the duo can only exercise patience as they attempt to break through. Overall, Real Madrid finds itself ensnared in a passive rhythm, primarily focused on stifling Bayern's offensive threats, with scant counterattack opportunities arising. This passive defense leaves the Bayern supporters in the stands increasingly agitated. Countless Real Madrid admirers, mirroring their coach Ancelotti, who sits calmly on the substitutes bench, are leisurely reclined on their sofas, exuding an air of tranquility. Securing an away goal is indeed a source of comfort. If playing defensively leads to advancement in the Champions League, so be it. Upon returning to La Liga, Real Madrid will undoubtedly showcase their dazzling attacking prowess once more. The once fastidious fans of the merengues, having endured nearly 4 years of hunger, now exhibit a more accommodating disposition. Regardless, reclaiming the titles of La Liga and the Champions League remains paramount. Pride is commendable, yet it can also embody adaptability. For instance, the fans seem to accept their team relinquishing control during away matches. As long as the outcome is favorable, the passive approach is entirely acceptable. On the field, the Real Madrid players exhibit a vigorous defensive attitude, further reassuring their supporters. Bayern's relentless assault skews the match statistics heavily in their favor. However, as the first half concludes with a score of 0-1, it starkly reveals the failure of Bayern's tactical execution in this period. Kovac appears genuinely anxious. The moment the referee signals the halftime break, he swiftly strides down the tunnel with his assistant coach. In contrast to Real Madrid's composed demeanor, the expressions on the faces of the Bayern players as they return to the dressing room are notably grave. As the second half commences, facing Real Madrid's continued compact formation and clear intent to adopt a defensive counterattacking stance, Bayern's players evidently escalate the pace of the game. They attempt to usher the match into a rapid-fire confrontation phase. Yet, no matter how they quicken the tempo or lure their opponents, the defenders of Real Madrid remain unfazed. Leon, after a successful defensive play, even gestures emphatically to his teammates, signaling them to maintain their composure. This action stirs palpable frustration among the Bayern fans. Regardless of their anger and dissatisfaction, observing Real Madrid's deliberate intent to slow the game through the live broadcast, the supporters of Bayern can only emit a long, resigned sigh. It is not until the 70th minute of the second half that the scenario they have longed for finally materializes. Real Madrid is finally willing to engage in open play with Bayern. However, as excitement wanes, the Bayern fans increasingly sense an unsettling rhythm to the match. How is it that, upon watching, it seems that Real Madrid is dominating Bayern on the pitch? What is amiss with the Bayern players? At this juncture, they ought to muster the courage to seize the final opportunity to equalize the score. One can only imagine how anxious countless Bayern fans are at this moment. Yet, their anxiety is futile, for the players on the field, while not entirely devoid of energy, are largely at their physical limits. Throughout the first half, Bayern's attacks were overly hasty, and in the second half, their attempts to accelerate the game in hopes of forcing Real Madrid into a blunder proved unsustainable. In contrast, Real Madrid adopted a compact formation to solidify their defense, a tactical approach that not only yielded effective defensive results, but also conserved their stamina. As the match entered its decisive phase, Real Madrid aimed to overwhelm Bayern, seizing control of the midfield before launching counterattacks against their defense. The fatigued Bayern defenders faltered, allowing Cristiano Ronaldo and substitute Gareth Bale to repeatedly find space for shots. In the 79th minute of the second half, after a relentless assault that had yet to last 10 minutes, Real Madrid scored again. The attack was initiated by Leon, who drew the attention of Javier Martinez and David Alaba in the center before orchestrating the play. Bale, nearly unmarked, received Leon's pass, cut inside, and executed a swift ground return to assist Karim Benzema at the back post, who capitalized on the opportunity. Neuer, focused primarily on the advancing Ronaldo, was caught off guard, allowing Benzema to pounce. Benzema, often underestimated by the fans, managed to deliver yet another unexpected delight. After missing a near-single chance during the first half stoppage time, he had faced the ire of many Real Madrid supporters, yet now, he basked in their praise. Leon, witnessing Benzema open his arms in a beaming embrace, could only smile in resignation and reciprocate with a warm hug. Despite harboring serious doubts about whether Morata had learned his duality from Benzema, Leon could only shower him with compliments. What other recourse did he have? Fans had already been merciless in their critiques of Benzema, and it was only natural for his comrades to offer him encouragement. Fortunately, their support was not in vain. At crucial moments, they could always trust in Benzema's remarkable ability to rise above expectations. The two-goal lead effectively sealed the match, and while Real Madrid could not be said to have completely conquered Munich's Allianz Arena, a resounding victory was certainly theirs. Upon returning to Madrid, however, the Real Madrid squad did not linger in celebration following their triumph in this Champions League clash. They reined in their emotions sooner than outsiders anticipated and earnestly focused on preparing for the upcoming league matches. The decisive round of La Liga, which would put an end to this season's suspense, had arrived. Fans of Barcelona and Atletico Madrid had even lost confidence in competing with Real Madrid, now merely wishing to witness the latter secure another league victory to finally come to terms with their own despair. Perhaps miracles do indeed exist, as evidenced by the numerous remarkable comebacks that have unfolded in the realm of football. However, it is nearly inconceivable for any neutral spectator to believe that Sporting Gijón could thwart Real Madrid's quest to reclaim the La Liga title. This sentiment extends even to the players and supporters of Gijón themselves, who are merely a relegation-threatened side struggling to maintain morale. How could they muster the courage to contend against the mighty Real Madrid? On the afternoon of April 15th, under the radiant sun, the El Molinón Stadium hosted a decisive clash in this season's La Liga. From the outset, Real Madrid launched an aggressive assault on the defensively minded Gijón. In stark contrast to his subdued performance in the recent Champions League encounter, Leon exhibited remarkable vigor in this match. Merely 4 minutes into the game, he nearly put Real Madrid ahead with a header that struck the post during an attacking foray. 3 minutes later, Leon unleashed a powerful strike from the edge of the Gijón penalty area, once again testing the limits of the goalkeeper's extraordinary reflexes. Yet, one cannot expect repeated fortune. In the 16th minute of the first half, Leon took his third shot of the match, this time a follow-up effort within the penalty area. Gijón's seemingly invincible goalkeeper, Cuellar, was finally unable to deny Leon's strike. Following Leon's breakthrough goal, other Real Madrid attackers swiftly added to the tally. In the 28th minute, Bale curled in a goal after cutting in from the wing, and in the 34th minute, Ronaldo headed another past the Gijón defense. By the time the first half concluded, Real Madrid had established a commanding 3-goal lead. The throngs of over 10,000 Madrid supporters in attendance erupted in joyous celebration. Unbeknownst to them, countless Barcelona fans, overwhelmed by the unfolding events, resolutely switched off their televisions, seeking solace for their wounded spirits. To add to their woes, Barcelona was set to face Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in the next round. Traditionally, they would be obliged to form a line to pay homage to the league champions, Real Madrid, which only deepened the anguish for many Barcelona devotees. The thought of such a scenario was enough to cause considerable distress among the Barcelona faithful. Yet, the harder they tried to forget the impending embarrassment, the more reminders surfaced. When the final whistle blew, signaling the end of the match, the Real Madrid players celebrated their resounding victory over Gijón with unrestrained exuberance. Leon was quick to turn towards the cameras, exuberantly shouting, "Come on, Barca, come pay your respects to the La Liga champions." The end of this chapter marks a moment of triumph for Leon, whose audacious proclamation left countless Madridistas exhilarated. While Barcelona supporters seethed with anger, once their frustration faded, they found themselves unable to muster the energy to retaliate against Leon in the court of public opinion. After all, facing Leon, they felt a palpable lack of confidence. Had the call for Barcelona to pay homage to Real Madrid come from Ronaldo or Ramos, the Barcelona fans would have been quick to respond with mockery. The teams they support have repeatedly triumphed over Real Madrid, captained by Cristiano Ronaldo and Sergio Ramos. The historical record of significant victories is readily available, providing ample ammunition for retorts and a mindset of superiority. However, when facing Leon, whether during his tenure at Real Madrid or Chelsea, Barcelona has never succeeded in defeating his teams, not even once. Perhaps this assertion lacks a degree of precision. After all, in the season Leon was first selected for Real Madrid's first team, Barcelona did indeed decimate Real Madrid, and although Leon was not included in the matchday squad of 18, he was nonetheless considered an integral member of the first team. If one were to nitpick, Leon could technically be said to have lost to Barcelona. Yet the fans of Barcelona, in their humility, have refrained from bringing this up. Once again, Leon's jests directed at Barcelona have left their supporters feeling insulted. Yet the experiences of past defeats in crucial matches have gradually accustomed them to such disappointments. This habituation has enabled them to prepare psychologically, albeit with great reluctance. Frankly speaking, the majority of Barcelona supporters had anticipated this scenario unfolding. What, then, should they do next? Should they adhere to La Liga's traditional customs and line up to pay homage to the champions Real Madrid? This time, the astute Barcelona fans refrained from prematurely discussing potential strategies. They acted as though they were entirely oblivious to Real Madrid's early victory, neglecting to engage in any discourse on the matter online. When provoked by other fans, they feigned ignorance, entirely delegating the responsibility of addressing this situation to the club, or more precisely, to the current head coach, Valverde. Interestingly, the players of Barcelona maintained a similar silence, as if they had conspired with their supporters to leave the matter entirely in Valverde's hands. Consequently, after chanting their slogans and awaiting a response from Barcelona, Leon found the situation rather tedious. He bore no personal animosity towards Valverde, and there was no merit in imposing such a burden on a good-natured individual. In truth, Leon would have preferred to engage in a verbal spar with the outspoken Pique or Alves. Yet he was taken aback to find that these two had also adopted a more cunning demeanor this time around. Thus, should the entire Barcelona squad line up at the Bernabeu to salute Real Madrid, it would devolve into a farcical blame game between their players and supporters. Bullying Valverde would not bring any joy to Leon. Observing that the other Barcelona players were unwilling to take the bait, Leon lost interest in the matter. After a brief celebration with his teammates, he redirected his focus to the upcoming second leg of the UEFA Champions League round of 16. The first leg, in which Real Madrid triumphed over Bayern Munich with a score of 2-0 at the Allianz Arena, had already highlighted the disparity in strength between the two teams. The legendary robbery duo, despite their enduring threat, had inevitably succumbed to the effects of age, unable to maintain their peak performance levels. Meanwhile, Javi Martinez's defensive capabilities had rapidly declined due to numerous injuries. At this moment, the players partnering with him are none other than the organizationally adept Thiago and the offensively inclined Vidal. Both possess commendable defensive capabilities, yet neither can compare to his former partner, Schweinsteiger. A significant issue plaguing Bayern's midfield is the diminished area of defensive coverage. If Vidal were to retreat and focus on intercepting and covering, the defensive burden on Javi Martinez would be considerably alleviated. However, this would necessitate Thiago engaging more directly with Leon and Modric, leading to inevitable repercussions on Bayern's overall midfield organization and distribution. This has been a persistent conundrum since Schweinsteiger's departure, as finding a midfielder akin to him, who could both ensure the team's organizational flow and provide essential defensive support, has become increasingly elusive. Despite Kovac's vast tactical insights, without suitable players, he is unable to rectify the current deficiencies in Bayern's midfield. Prior to the match, some German media proposed the idea of utilizing Javi Martinez as a sole defensive midfielder, allowing Thiago and Vidal to operate as dual central midfielders to reinforce the flanks. Yet, upon further deliberation, these media outlets conceded that if Bayern were to adopt such a formation in the second leg, they would likely become vulnerable to being pierced through the midfield by Real Madrid. Thiago might find himself constrained by Modric's pressing, while Leon could effortlessly outmaneuver the increasingly sluggish Martinez. Can one truly rely on Vidal to both surge forward in attack and retreat for defense? Let us be real. Vidal is merely among the elite B2B players in contemporary football, and even the once unstoppable Yaya Touré, at his peak, was far more formidable, yet struggled to maintain a balance between offensive and defensive contributions. Perhaps the only player capable of addressing this critical issue in today's football is Leon, who not only excels in both attack and defense, but also possesses an almost superhuman stamina. Kovac lacks the ability to transform Vidal into Leon in a short time frame, nor can he reconcile the midfield's offensive and defensive discrepancies. Thus, he ultimately opted for a bold strategy, channeling the team's full force into another avenue. Attack, and once more attack. On the evening of April 18th, following a brief yet urgent adjustment, Bayern finally revealed their starting lineup for this crucial encounter to the fans. The returning Lewandowski made no unexpected appearances in the starting 11. He was supported by the dynamic duo of Ribery and Robben. Muller lurked behind him, orchestrating the offensive play. Meanwhile, the double pivot that underpinned Bayern's tactical framework transformed into Thiago and Vidal. Indeed, in a bid to maximize the team's attacking prowess, Kovac made a daring decision to bench Javi Martinez, who might slow the offensive tempo. Thus emerged a starting lineup that both thrilled and deeply concerned Bayern supporters. Upon receiving Bayern's starting lineup for today's match, Ancelotti of Real Madrid promptly abandoned his primary tactical scheme aimed at seizing the initiative at the Bernabeu. There was no necessity for Real Madrid to engage in a fierce contest with Bayern. Should they press forward, it would only play into Bayern's hands. Faced with Bayern's transparent tactics, Ancelotti's strategic choices became rather straightforward: to consolidate the formation, control the game, consume the match clock, and execute swift counterattacks. While employing such a strategy at home may appear somewhat conservative, it remains the most prudent option. Lyon had no objections to this approach. As the match commenced, he positioned himself as a defensive midfielder and, upon receiving the ball, began to collaborate with his teammates to enhance the team's possession statistics. Bayern, however, was reluctant to allow Real Madrid to leisurely run down the clock and promptly implemented a high-pressing strategy. At this stage of the Champions League, conserving energy was hardly a priority. Moreover, Bayern held a commanding 8-point lead over second-placed Leipzig in the Bundesliga, alleviating any competitive pressure. Kovac intended to exhaust his resources in this encounter, and Bayern's players were equally mentally prepared. The ferocious onslaught ignited excitement among countless fans watching from their screens. For the entire Real Madrid squad, the defensive pressure was indeed heightened, yet the situation remained manageable. They did not falter under Bayern's offensive onslaught. This resilience can be attributed to Real Madrid's consistent performances that have led them to the Champions League semifinals in recent seasons, allowing them to compete against other elite teams effectively. Their experience has been relentless, and facing such high-stakes situations now feels as natural as breathing. Their technical foundation is exceptionally solid. With an unwavering mentality, Real Madrid's players danced on the edge of a blade, executing precise passes that dissected Bayern's aggressive pressing. While maintaining a superior possession rate, Real Madrid's defenders also seized opportunities to launch long counterattacks, hoping to secure an additional goal. Such seasoned play did not waver Bayern's commitment to their offensive strategy, yet it undeniably increased the pressure on their defensive line. As the attack heated up at one end, anxiety loomed at the other. Bayern achieved the desired offensive effect, but Cristiano Ronaldo and Lyon, with their own attempts on goal, sent warning signals to Bayern's defense. At this juncture, Bayern could afford little concern for such matters, as their attacking momentum intensified. In the 29th minute of the first half, Robben, exhibiting his seasoned experience, earned Bayern a chance to equalize through a dubious penalty. The referee, dismissing Marcelo's protests, decisively awarded Bayern a penalty kick. Lewandowski converted with ease, leaving Navas no chance to intervene. However, in subsequent replays, many neutral fans clearly observed that Marcelo's foot had not made contact with Robben in the penalty area. Robben's dramatic fall was so convincing that it deceived both the referee and countless spectators. Despite suffering from an unjust penalty, Real Madrid swiftly regained their composure under the leadership of several veteran players. They adhered to their previous tactical approach, striving to maintain control of the game, gradually exhausting Bayern's midfield and forward players, while seizing opportunities for counterattacks. Even as Bayern surged with renewed vigor, launching a more ferocious offensive, Real Madrid remained undeterred. Ultimately, under the relentless pressure of 10 shots on goal from Bayern, Real Madrid withstood the onslaught, heading into halftime with an aggregate score of 2-1. Most spectators believed that Real Madrid would seize the initiative in the second half, catching Bayern off guard. However, when the second half commenced, Real Madrid maintained their calm, continuing their controlling style of play, seemingly untroubled by the prospect of a home defeat. Bayern's players, buoyed by their initial success, assumed that the Real Madrid coaching staff had conceded, intent on preserving their one-goal lead until the final whistle. This self-satisfied mindset spurred Bayern to exert even greater effort, their offense becoming increasingly relentless. While their attacking effectiveness remained notable, the toll on their stamina was equally remarkable. Unbeknownst to them, their pace gradually began to wane, as their bodies instinctively signaled the need for rest, urging them to conserve energy. Before they could fully grasp the gravity of the situation, Real Madrid executed a sudden tactical shift, signaling that the tide of the match was about to change. In the 67th minute of the second half, Real Madrid suddenly intensified their efforts, disrupting Bayern's offensive rhythm with a swift counterpress, nearly plunging Bayern into despair. It was only thanks to Neuer's remarkable save at a crucial moment that he thwarted Bale's close-range strike. Yet, before Bayern could revel in their fortune for too long, Real Madrid's counterattack surged forth once more. The scenario that Kovac dreaded materialized on the field. Thiago, closely marked by Lyon, began to lose possession repeatedly. Whenever Real Madrid regained the ball, they launched threatening counterattacks with remarkable speed. Neuer managed to parry one or two of Real Madrid's threatening shots, but ultimately, he was unable to withstand the relentless onslaught that crashed upon him like waves. In the 75th minute, Real Madrid struck twice in quick succession within a chaotic Bayern penalty area. Benzema and Leon each took shots, with Leon ultimately scoring from a rebound into Bayern's net. Neuer slammed his hands against the grass in frustration, yet the other Bayern players had no time to dwell on their disappointment. They needed 2 more goals. With 2 additional goals, they could eliminate Real Madrid on away goals. It was a daunting task, but not entirely impossible. Clinging to the last vestiges of hope, Bayern's attacking players anxiously awaited their opportunity in the final third. At this moment, the Bayern midfielders, compelled to prioritize ball possession due to Real Madrid's relentless counterattacks, found themselves unable to supply their forwards with sufficient offensive opportunities. Lacking the ball, Bayern's attackers had no choice but to retreat and offer support. However, they underestimated the determination of the entire Real Madrid squad to counterattack. After a fierce press, Leon once again disrupted possession from Thiago. Modric seized the opportunity to swiftly carry the ball away, subsequently distributing it to the right flank. Bale allowed the ball to slip past him, enabling the advancing Carvajal to take control, driving the ball towards the byline. Alaba, in a moment of desperation, opted to tackle Carvajal from the side. Yet, Carvajal had already completed his observation and delivered a final pass before Alaba could make contact. Benzema and Ronaldo, positioned centrally within the Bayern penalty area, launched a coordinated strike, while Boateng leaped alongside them. However, as he noticed the ball's trajectory moving towards the deeper recesses of the penalty area, his heart sank. Lahm instantly read the ball's landing spot, but before he could muster the strength to leap, a colossal figure blocked his entire line of sight. Soaring to an exaggerated height to meet the ball with a powerful header, Lahm was left astonished, while Neuer, standing as the last line of defense for Bayern, gritted his teeth and made a desperate dive. Nevertheless, the ball evaded his grasp, spinning with greater velocity, and plunged into the net behind him. The goal was scored. Commentators from around the globe erupted in joyous exclamations at that moment. Leon, having completed a brace, pounded his chest in celebration, executing an elongated and stylish slide on his knees in the corner of Bayern's half. The match had effectively been decided. All of Real Madrid's players, except for Navas, gathered at the corner flag, celebrating exuberantly. Once the collective jubilation subsided, Leon adjusted his hairstyle and gestured a phone call towards the camera. The Chelsea players, watching the match, understood that Leon was signaling an invitation for a showdown in the Champions League final. Chapter conclusion. Chapter 428. This might be the most boring Champions League semi-final in history, having easily overcome Bayern. Real Madrid had set their sights on the ultimate Champions League final. Fans increasingly believed that this year's UEFA script was destined to culminate in a grand finale between Real Madrid and Chelsea. Observing the teams that had reached the Champions League semi-finals alongside these two giants, Atletico Madrid and Monaco, it seemed evident that they were mere stepping stones to the final showdown. Despite their fans' unwavering hope for progression and dreams of miraculous performances, the reality of their underdog status remained undeniable. On April 21, 2017, the draw for the Champions League semi-finals was ceremoniously held in Nyon, Switzerland. Under the watchful eyes of countless fans and media representatives, UEFA inevitably separated the two favored teams, Real Madrid and Chelsea, for the semi-finals. Real Madrid found themselves once again matched against Atletico, setting the stage for another Madrid derby, while the surprising underdogs, Monaco, faced Chelsea. The supporters of Atletico Madrid, upon witnessing such a draw, feel utterly resigned and cannot help but express their disdain towards their local rivals, Real Madrid, exclaiming, "How is it you again?" Conversely, the fans of Monaco maintain a more optimistic outlook, as their team's advancement to the UEFA Champions League semi-finals has far exceeded their expectations for this season. Each progression in the knockout stage has been a delightful surprise for them. At this juncture, unless they are paired against Atletico Madrid, drawing Chelsea or Real Madrid holds little distinction for Monaco, as their chances of overcoming either team are exceedingly slim. The supporters of Real Madrid and Chelsea harbor no objections to the draw. The forthcoming matches will be a test of skill, determining who can vanquish their opponent with minimal squad attrition to reach the finals. With the league title already secured, Real Madrid will predominantly field their second team for the remaining La Liga fixtures. The primary players will only utilize league matches for warm-ups prior to the Champions League clashes. In the national derby against Barcelona on April 23rd, the coaching staff of Real Madrid opted for a rotated lineup. Ancelotti candidly revealed the starting 11 during the pre-match press conference. Barcelona, having seen their championship hopes extinguished, finds little difference between finishing second or third in the league. Moreover, with Real Madrid publicly announcing their intention to deploy substitutes, they were not brazen enough to send out their full-strength squad to the Bernabeu. Consequently, the day's derby felt somewhat lackluster, as both teams fielded their respective rotated lineups, ultimately resulting in a 1-1 stalemate. Notably, neither before nor after the match did Barcelona extend any formal gesture of respect towards Real Madrid, which provided ample fodder for local Madrid media to critique Barcelona's conduct. On April 26th, Real Madrid traveled to the Riazor Stadium to face Deportivo La Coruña, treating this league match as a warm-up for the upcoming Champions League semi-finals. All key players participated, yet the focus of their preparation was not on offensive tactics, but rather on defensive control. The match concluded with a mere 2-0 victory for Real Madrid, which appeared less than thrilling. Ancelotti's tactical decisions left many in the media puzzled, with some Atletico-friendly outlets daring to speculate that Real Madrid was deploying a tactical smokescreen. At this point, Simeone found himself somewhat perplexed, yet ultimately resolved to adopt a strategy of restraint. Regardless of how Real Madrid might adapt, he would lead Atletico Madrid in a defensive stance, striving to drag Real Madrid into the quagmire of extra time. This approach could prove advantageous for Atletico, as this year's squad possesses commendable stamina. Simeone does not fear a repeat of past seasons where his team was overrun and ultimately crushed by Real Madrid's technical superiority. If they can successfully extend the match into extra time, or even a penalty shootout, it would indeed be fortuitous for Atletico Madrid, allowing them to capitalize on their strengths while avoiding being ground down by Real Madrid's prowess on the field. Having made meticulous preparations, Simeone appeared exceedingly confident during the interview. Meanwhile, Real Madrid successfully completed their tactical preparations ahead of the monumental clash. On the afternoon of April 29th, the 35th round of La Liga commenced, with both Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid opting to field entirely substitute lineups. The highly anticipated first leg of the UEFA Champions League semi-final officially kicked off on the evening of May 2nd. Real Madrid and Atletico took to the pitch at the Bernabeu, where Atletico indeed adopted a pragmatic counter-attacking approach, as predicted by most media outlets prior to the match. However, in an unexpected turn of events, Real Madrid did not initiate an aggressive offensive tempo. Atletico played with composure, but the home side, Real Madrid, appeared even more assured, employing a commanding style of play that left Atletico's players bewildered and Simeone perplexed on the sidelines. Had it been any other team playing in such a manner, Simeone might have swiftly altered his tactics in pursuit of an away goal. Yet, facing the team that had most frequently thwarted him, Simeone hesitated, causing Atletico's players to remain entrenched in their half, merely observing Real Madrid's ball possession without daring to apply high-pressure tactics. Consequently, as the first half swiftly elapsed, the match concluded in a rather bizarre 0-0 stalemate, with the quality of play being decidedly mediocre, certainly failing to satisfy neutral fans. Many spectators anticipated that Real Madrid would take the initiative in the second half, given their historical propensity for such strategies, confusing their opponents in the first half before exerting themselves in the latter. However, when the second half commenced, Real Madrid maintained their composed demeanor, showing no inclination to mount an offensive. Even more astonishingly, Simeone refrained from urging his players to attack, allowing the game to unfold in a taciturn manner throughout. Thus, when the match ultimately finished with a score of 0-0, countless fans took to the internet to mock and jeer both teams. According to the commentary from these fans, the match paled in comparison to past classic UEFA Champions League semifinals, barely even reaching the standard of a typical round of 16 knockout stage. The encounter was dull and unappealing, resembling a contest of endurance between two mid-table Serie A teams. Fortunately, the following day, Monaco and Chelsea delivered an exhilarating 2-4 clash that left neutral fans exhilarated. The ensuing contrast naturally led to a significant decline in anticipated viewership for the second leg of the UEFA Champions League semifinal between Real Madrid and Atletico. Despite the support of substantial overseas viewership, it ultimately could not compete with the thrilling matchup between Monaco and Chelsea. On May 10th, Chelsea hosted Monaco for the second leg of the semifinal, where Monaco struck first, with Falcao heading in a goal from Moutinho's exquisite lobbed pass. The aggregate score from the two-legged encounter was equalized at 3-3, significantly boosting the morale of Monaco, who were eager to press on and secure the next goal. However, in a pivotal moment, Suarez extinguished the aspirations of the Monaco side with a precise shot following a dazzling run past two defenders. 6 minutes later, Hazard further widened the scoreline with a brilliant curling strike. The beleaguered Monaco appeared to lose their fighting spirit. After conceding a direct free kick from Kroos in the second half, their journey in this season's Champions League came to an abrupt end. Chelsea had netted 7 goals against Monaco over the 2 matches, showcasing their formidable attacking prowess, while Mourinho once again demonstrated his adeptness at orchestrating offensive play. Naturally, such a result would instill a sense of pressure among the players. Yet, in the following day's Champions League semi-final second leg between Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, Real remained unfazed, continuing to engage in a defensive battle with Atletico. The prevailing atmosphere of the match was one of tension and disconnection, with an almost complete absence of attacking rhythm. Atletico, wary of conceding even a solitary away goal, seemed intent on dragging the match into extra time, while Real exhibited a similar lack of urgency, as if tacitly agreeing to the prospect of an extended contest. The first half concluded in a stalemate of 0-0. However, in the 64th minute of the second half, Ancelotti made a tactical substitution, bringing on Isco in place of Bale. This change immediately alerted Simeone, and upon Isco's entrance, Real Madrid's tactical approach shifted as they began to assertively target Atletico's defensive line. The Atletico players, already accustomed to a defensive tempo, suddenly appeared anxious. This tension starkly contrasted with the composure exhibited by Real's players on the pitch. The attacking players of Real, in possession, were not in a hurry to make a threatening pass or shot. Rather, they seemed intent on employing intricate interplay to penetrate Atletico's penalty area. In the 79th minute, Isco received a lofted pass from Leon outside the box, maneuvering past the recovering Gabi and advancing into Atletico's penalty area. In the next instant, his swift change of direction nearly allowed him to evade the retreating Savic. In a desperate bid to prevent Isco from facing Courtois, Savic resorted to a risky tackle, resulting in Isco tumbling to the ground. As Savic hastily rose, protesting the decision, the referee promptly issued a yellow card. A penalty was awarded. Real Madrid was presented with the most opportune chance in the two-legged affair, while Atletico faced impending judgment. Cristiano Ronaldo conferred with Leon outside the penalty area before patting Leon on the back of his head and placing the ball in his hands. Leon, no longer modest, confidently strode to the penalty spot. The Wanda Metropolitano Stadium fell silent, with thousands of Atletico fans fervently praying for divine intervention to safeguard their team. Simeone even knelt at the sidelines, beseeching the heavens while gazing towards Courtois, who, gritting his teeth, fixed a fierce glare upon Leon. He had long been aware that it was precisely due to Leon's opposition that he had remained at Atletico Madrid for the past few years. With no opportunity to return to Chelsea, the man before him had cost him the chance to achieve grand accolades with the club and had caused him to miss out on the role of a life winner. He bore no resentment. After all, it was only natural for Leon to stand alongside the more familiar De Bruyne. Yet, at this moment, he yearned to personally prove to Leon that his prowess warranted the same honors that Oblak had received, asserting that he was indeed the strongest among the new generation of goalkeepers. Taking a deep breath, Courtois stretched his long legs and arms, attempting to exert psychological pressure on Leon. However, Leon did not spare him a glance, setting the ball and turning his attention to the referee. Finally, the whistle blew. Leon glanced ahead, unhesitatingly taking a run up to strike. Unlike his trademark ferocious shot, he executed a precise and swift push instead. Courtois, suspended in midair, felt his mind shatter. A ground ball. Once again, it was a ground ball. He had lost count of how many times Leon had exploited his vulnerability to disrupt his mental state. Despair engulfed him as he watched the ball plunge into the lower left corner of the net. He landed with a furious slap against the grass. In that moment, the Real Madrid players, buoyed by his despair, surged towards Leon, who had sealed the match. Simeone's figure knelt forlornly on the sidelines. This seemed destined to become a classic moment in Champions League history. Yet, to be remembered in such a manner by history and the fans was an unrelenting cruelty for Simeone. The Atletico fans, unable to accept the harsh reality, succumbed to emotional turmoil, many shedding tears of sorrow. Ultimately, the match drew to a close, and the miracle they had prayed for did not materialize. Over the two legs, 10. Thanks to Isco's crucial penalty and Leon's unflinching composure from the spot, Real Madrid eliminated Atletico, advancing to face Chelsea in this season's Champions League final. The image of Ancelotti and Zidane exchanging smiles and high-fives on the sidelines became the cover of numerous sports publications the following day. Real Madrid's progression to the Champions League final was well-deserved, as Ancelotti's tactical arrangements over the two legs had proven effective. The stability he instilled left Atletico with no opportunity to stir the match's dynamics. However, sports media and fans across Europe could not help but critique the overly conservative tactics employed by Real Madrid in both legs. These two Madrid derbies were nothing short of a torment for the fans. They were more than willing to label these matches as the most tedious and dull Champions League semifinals in history. The chapter concludes with the title chapter 429, slaying Atletico once more, the arrival of the final showdown. Perhaps, from the fans' perspective, these two Champions League semifinals were indeed somewhat tedious, but I must assert that in the face of victory and ultimate triumph, all aspects of the match must yield. Do you understand my sentiment? In this moment, we have emerged victorious, standing upon the grand stage of the Champions League final. Thus, the tactical decisions we have made are indeed justified, and it is as simple as that. In the post-match press conference, Leon ardently defended the strategic choices of his coaching staff. He was certainly correct, in the face of ultimate triumph. What does it matter if the performance was less than aesthetically pleasing? If Real Madrid had played exquisitely yet succumbed to defeat, the media scrutiny faced by the players would have been nothing short of hellish. Victory must precede authority, and there are subtler reasons that Leon could not articulate openly. He alluded to this without elaboration, subsequently dismissing further inquiries from reporters. Ancelotti echoed similar sentiments in response to the probing questions from the press. When journalists sought to unearth more insider information, he deftly deflected their inquiries by stating that the coaching staff needed to focus on preparations for the Copa del Rey and the Champions League final. In the previous two rounds of the Copa del Rey, Real Madrid faced Celta and Alaves, thus their path to advancement was quite smooth, especially when contrasted with Atletico Madrid, who ultimately reached the final. Atletico had to battle fiercely against Eibar and Barcelona, and their encounters with Barcelona were particularly perilous, culminating in a dramatic last-minute victory over them. Now, as they approach the Copa del Rey final against a Real Madrid team that has yet to be defeated this season, the expectations of victory among fans are notably subdued. However, Atletico clings to the hope of securing the Copa del Rey title, and the fierce tenacity of a cornered beast can be formidable. Therefore, even though Real Madrid recently triumphed over Atletico in the Champions League semifinals, the players remain cautious and respectful. On the evening of May 15th, the 37th round of La Liga commenced, and as anticipated by most Spanish media, Real Madrid's key players did not start. Ancelotti fielded the second team at the Santiago Bernabéu to face Sevilla. However, having secured fourth place in La Liga 2 rounds early, Sevilla approached the match with little ambition, with coach Sampaoli also opting for a rotated squad. Initially, the fans from both sides felt disappointed, as the opportunity to witness their star players in action seemed lost. Yet, to their surprise, the liberated rotation players from both teams engaged in an exhilarating offensive display. By the end of the first half, they had collectively produced 4 splendid goals, and in the second half, they added 3 more. Ultimately, Real Madrid conceded 3 goals at the Bernabéu, narrowly securing a 4-3 victory, almost jeopardizing their unbeaten home record for the season. Nonetheless, the Madrid supporters showered the players with enthusiastic applause at the conclusion of the match. After all, the game had been played with flair, and the attacking football was thrilling. To play beautifully and still emerge victorious, what more could one ask? The current supporters of Atletico Madrid seem to have lowered their standards compared to the past, perhaps influenced by the recent performances of their key players. After all, they endured the ugly matches against Atletico Madrid, and this 4-3 victory felt like a delightful visual feast to them. Unfortunately, just when they relished this rare pleasure, on May 22nd, they faced the torment of their main players once again in the season finale of La Liga. That evening, Real Madrid faced Malaga away, a match that served as a warm-up before their Copa del Rey final against Atletico Madrid. This time, the key players of Real Madrid did not rest, but started the match. However, instead of the expected offensive display, Malaga presented a tightly organized defense. The match's atmosphere was rather dull, as Malaga hesitated to launch attacks while Real Madrid focused on countering. As the game progressed, the rhythm mirrored that of the previous encounters with Atletico, leaving countless Real Madrid fans disheartened in front of their screens. By halftime, Real Madrid had failed to score, resulting in a 0-0 stalemate with Malaga. As the second half commenced, Real Madrid's tactics showed no signs of alteration. And it wasn't until the final 15 minutes that Ancelotti made his first substitution. Isco entered the fray, partnering with Modric to control the midfield while Leon was liberated to concentrate on offensive incursions. Cristiano Ronaldo once again adapted his playing style, moving from a versatile winger closer to the center, effectively becoming another striker for Real Madrid. Benzema, meanwhile, drifted to the flanks, facilitating space in the center for Ronaldo and Leon to exploit. Faced with this unique attacking approach from Real Madrid, Malaga struggled to respond, and their defense quickly became disarrayed. In a mere 15 minutes, Leon and Ronaldo seized opportunities to penetrate Malaga's penalty area, scoring in succession and ultimately securing the victory for Real Madrid. While the 2-0 scoreline was modest, the overall flow of the match was far from seamless, with Real Madrid often exchanging blows with Malaga, creating an impression of a balanced contest. The supporters of Atletico Madrid found it challenging to evaluate the efficacy of the newly devised offensive strategy by the coaching staff. However, one undeniable sentiment emerged. The team exuded a sense of composure, and the victory came with remarkable ease, devoid of any significant hurdles. Should Real Madrid employ such a tactical approach in the Copa del Rey final and the Champions League final, their supporters would undoubtedly feel a tremendous sense of confidence. With such hopes, the Atletico supporters patiently awaited May 28th. That evening, the Copa del Rey final commenced at Atletico Madrid's Wanda Metropolitano Stadium, a pivotal match that attracted the attention of countless football fans around the globe before the Grand Champions League showdown. The Madrid derby remains a contest of considerable significance, even if Atletico Madrid appears to be on a different competitive tier compared to Real Madrid. However, today's Atletico is brimming with confidence, buoyed by the advantage of playing at home and motivated by the desire for retribution. The starting 11 of Atletico is poised to unleash their full potential in what is destined to be their final battle of the season. On the other hand, Real Madrid possesses compelling reasons to execute their favored strategy of counter-attacking defense in this match. After all, their opponents enjoy the home advantage and are almost guaranteed to seize the initiative from the outset. Coupled with the fact that Real Madrid rehearsed defensive tactics in their league finale, it would seem illogical to suddenly adopt an offensive formation. Yet, the coaching staff of Real Madrid truly surprised the footballing world in this Copa del Rey final with an audacious approach. From the outset of the match, Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale launched an unrelenting assault on Atletico's flanks, employing an aggressive tactic of simultaneous wing attacks that forced Atletico to continually retreat. Marcelo and Carvajal effectively transformed themselves into wingers, pushing deep into Atletico's half without concern for returning to defend. The defensive burden fell squarely on Casemiro and Leon, who had to intercept Atletico's potential counterattacks while also providing cover for their fellow defenders on the flanks. It must be noted, however, that the two defensive stalwarts are adept at multitasking in their defensive duties. Modric and the frequently dropping Benzema were sufficient to sustain Real Madrid's attacking organization in the final third. Ancelotti remained unfazed by the threat of Atletico's counterattacks, seemingly intent on maximizing the offensive advantages of Real Madrid's wings. This tactical arrangement was anything but conventional, diverging significantly from the style previously exhibited by Real Madrid's starting players. Not only neutral spectators, but also the supporters of Atletico found themselves bewildered, struggling to comprehend the strategy devised by Real Madrid's coaching staff. Nevertheless, one cannot overlook the fact that the aggressive offensive tactics employed by Real Madrid were precisely what their supporters yearned to witness. The team's ability to dominate Atletico on their home turf, even if only in the opening phase of the match, brought a sense of joy to the Real Madrid faithful. However, they underestimated the determination of their team to launch an offensive assault. Real Madrid's wing penetration strategy showed no signs of abating, and the ample stamina accumulated throughout the season proved invaluable as the campaign reached its climax. Simeone, standing on the sidelines with hands on hips, shook his head repeatedly, seemingly in disbelief that Real Madrid could maintain such a high-intensity offensive rhythm at the season's conclusion. He had previously believed that his squad could match Real Madrid in terms of endurance, but it now appeared that was merely a figment of his imagination, as Real Madrid had not even exerted their full strength. At this juncture, Simeone could only hope that his two fullbacks could withstand the defensive pressure and prevent Real Madrid from scoring in the early stages of the match. Yet, as the saying goes, when misfortune strikes, one often finds that what they fear most comes to pass. 2 minutes after Simeone had fervently prayed to God, Real Madrid executed a splendid interplay on the right flank. Bale, having received a return pass from Carvajal, who had made an overlapping run, unleashed a deft inward shot from the edge of the penalty area that forced Courtois into a cautious save, leaving him no option but to parry rather than catch the ball. Cristiano Ronaldo, ever quick to react, surged forward for a follow-up shot, yet his effort lacked power, allowing Courtois, with his extraordinary reflexes, to thwart it once more. The ball sped away from the penalty area, and Courtois, having made 2 rapid saves, had yet to regain his footing when, in the next moment, Leon, having advanced into position, chose to execute a volley without letting the ball touch the ground. The football soared through the air, leaving a shimmering trail behind it. Courtois had no time to recover, and the tens of thousands of fans in attendance could scarcely discern the ball's trajectory before they heard the crisp sound resonating from the stadium's large screen, a sound that signified the ball's swift contact with the net. In the 13th minute of the first half, Leon had helped Real Madrid take the lead with a stunning strike, a true masterpiece. Courtois appeared momentarily dazed by Leon's shot, his emotions somewhat numbed, as he shook his head and gazed into the distance with a look of resignation. The Real Madrid players erupted in jubilant celebration within Atletico's half, while on the sidelines, Ancelotti remained his usual composed self, raising an eyebrow and placing a hand on his hip, contrasting sharply with the exuberant Zidane, who had rushed from the bench to cheer on his team. After reveling in their triumph, however, the players returned swiftly and orderly to their own half. The goal had left Atletico momentarily stunned, and Simeone was compelled to calm his players, urging them to maintain their composure. Yet, as the match resumed, Real Madrid pressed forward with renewed vigor, forcing the still disoriented Atletico players to retreat defensively. In moments of peril, opportunities often arise. With Atletico's top-notch defensive counterattacking capabilities, they might have had a chance to breach Real Madrid's defenses had they seized the moment. However, perhaps having succumbed to defeat against Real Madrid too many times this season, or perhaps still haunted by their torment in the Champions League semi-finals, Atletico's starting players appeared lackluster in their offensive efforts and somewhat passive in defense, their form far from ideal. Simeone contemplated tactical adjustments, but his players could not withstand even 10 minutes, conceding again in the 22nd minute of the first half. This time, it was Bale who scored, capitalizing on a cross from Cristiano Ronaldo, thereby extending Real Madrid's lead. In that moment, the thousands of Atletico supporters in the stands felt utterly despondent. They had finally witnessed Real Madrid's relentless attack, yet the inability of their own team to cope was a bitter pill to swallow. Simeone, undeterred, fervently urged his players to awaken from their stupor. However, the goal Real Madrid scored in the 34th minute of the first half shattered any remaining hope within the Atletico squad. The match was prematurely declared over at this very moment. Real Madrid does not possess the habit of uncorking champagne at halftime, and of course, Atletico Madrid is not Liverpool. The Wanda Metropolitano Stadium tonight does not believe in miracles or comebacks. As the final whistle echoed through the arena, many Atletico starters collapsed onto the grass, shedding tears on their home turf. They failed to fulfill their promise to the fans today, leaving a bitter sense of regret, and the score of 14 is utterly unconvincing. The sensation of watching their city rivals lift the trophy at their own ground is indeed a painful one. Yet, they must endure this anguish and allow it to serve as a reminder to seek vengeance in the upcoming season. On the other hand, Real Madrid rejoiced. After a grueling season, nothing could be more exhilarating than standing atop the championship podium. Ramos ultimately lifted the second trophy of the season for Los Blancos. With both the La Liga and Copa del Rey titles now in their possession, only the grand finale, the UEFA Champions League, remains. When Leon triumphantly held the Copa del Rey aloft, he once again made the gesture of smiling and pretending to make a phone call for the cameras. The fans understood who he was reaching out to. On June 4th, the Champions League final awaits, where the dual champions will clash. The battle is about to commence. Chapter 430. This is my story, my era. All leagues around the world have reached their conclusion during this period. Real Madrid has swept through La Liga, reclaiming the throne, securing both the La Liga and Copa del Rey titles, now setting their sights on the Champions League. Meanwhile, in the Premier League, Chelsea has once again clinched both the Premier League and the League Cup. However, the FA Cup, which significantly impacted the team's performance in the latter half of the season, was once again abandoned by Mourinho. As it turns out, his decision was remarkably astute. After losing Lyon, the indomitable midfielder, Chelsea's performance across multiple competitions during the latter half of the season faced some setbacks. Fortunately, Chelsea wisely lightened their load, opting out of the FA Cup's dual battles, ultimately achieving their seasonal objectives as planned. Coupled with the newly acquired FIFA Club World Cup title, Chelsea now boasts a treble, needing only the Champions League trophy to crown their remarkable achievements this season with the final and most significant honor. Should they accomplish this goal, Chelsea will continue to make history, becoming the first team to achieve a three-peat since the Champions League's reform. Both teams have compelling reasons to secure the Champions League title, and this final is destined to be etched in the annals of Champions League history. Fans worldwide are turning their attention to the night of June 4th, eagerly anticipating a grand showdown, a thrilling encounter that is likely to become a topic of conversation for countless supporters. Yet, amidst the clamor of public opinion, the preparations of both dominant teams are proceeding with remarkable discretion. Following their victory over Atletico in the Copa del Rey final, Real Madrid flew directly to Cardiff, Wales the next day, settling into their pre-arranged training facilities. The following day, Chelsea's squad also arrived in Cardiff, and both teams almost synchronously adopted a closed training regimen. During this period, Lyon engaged in communication with his former teammates via social media, yet they did not meet in person. It was not until the evening of June 4th, amidst the tense warm-ups before the match, that Lyon reunited with his old friends on the field. In such a crucial final battle, neither Lyon nor Mourinho typically indulges in friendly banter with their opponents. However, on this particular evening, they broke from tradition. Upon encountering each other, the two shared a warm, smiling embrace. "You won't score today, will you?" Mourinho jested first, to which Lyon merely shrugged. "Perhaps not. But even if I don't score, Chris and the others will. I love you, boss, but we must secure victory in this match." Lyon's response earned him a playful kick from Mourinho, and the two parted with laughter at the sidelines. A moment captured by the attending journalists and swiftly disseminated across the internet. Fans from various nations couldn't help but muse that had Lyon and Mourinho still been on the same team this summer, the Champions League championship would likely have been as predictable as in the past two seasons. Their synergy was remarkable. Lyon faithfully executed Mourinho's tactical directives, while Mourinho generously allowed Lyon spontaneous adjustments during the game. Last season, Chelsea appeared to have a top-tier coach on the field, complemented by another exceptional strategist off the field. Their adaptability was unparalleled in the football world, rendering other teams unable to compete. Fortunately, Real Madrid intervened just in time to bring Lyon back to Madrid. Otherwise, had Lyon and Mourinho continued to play together for a few more seasons, Chelsea might have monopolized the Champions League title. A vast number of neutral fans were also more inclined to witness the rivalry between Lyon and Mourinho on the pitch. One was the strongest player of the era, while the other was the most formidable coach. Their continuous collaboration in clinching prestigious championships was simply too perplexing. It was far more intriguing to see them as familiar adversaries. Both teams completed their pre-match warm-ups thoroughly, and the live broadcasts from various countries commenced just as the two squads were finishing their preparations. An air of tension enveloped the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff. The mobilization time before the great battle was always brief. Chelsea and Real Madrid were no exceptions. And almost immediately after completing their motivational talks, staff members reminded them that it was time to prepare for the match. Ultimately, amidst the thunderous cheers of over 70,000 fans, the 22 elite football stars of Chelsea and Real Madrid stepped into the ultimate battlefield of the season under the bright lights. As the commentators of various countries finally received the starting lineups for both teams, they seized the moment to introduce the tactical arrangements of the two esteemed coaches. Both Chelsea and Real Madrid deployed a 4-3-3 formation. For Chelsea, the starting goalkeeper was Oblak, with a defensive line comprising Trippier, Maguire, Thiago Silva, and Azpilicueta arranged from left to right. In the midfield, Matic took a central and withdrawn position, with Kroos and De Bruyne positioned as dual attacking midfielders. On the flanks, Hazard played on the left and Salah on the right, with Suarez leading as the striker. For Real Madrid, their starting goalkeeper was Navas. In defense, Marcelo and Carvajal occupied the left and right fullback positions, while Ramos and Pepe formed a solid center-back partnership. In the midfield, Casemiro held a central and withdrawn role, with Leon and Modric as the dual attacking midfielders. Cristiano Ronaldo took the left wing, Bale the right, and Benzema played as the center forward. Both teams boasted star-studded lineups, with Mourinho and Ancelotti revealing no secrets, fielding their strongest 11 players. Countless fans gazed at the 22 footballing giants gracing the final stage, their eyes almost dazzled by the spectacle. The luxury of both lineups rivaled that of the peak era of the Spanish El Clasico. After the pre-match ceremony concluded, the players from both teams stood at their respective positions with serious expressions, and ultimately, Ramos secured the kickoff. The spectators held their breath, eagerly awaiting the moment the match would commence. At 1945 local time, with the referee's whistle, this Champions League final battle began. Real Madrid, taking the initial kickoff, swiftly spread their formation, opting not to rush into an attack, but rather to secure possession in their own half. Chelsea, seemingly anticipating the pace at which Real Madrid would start, also maintained their defensive positioning, refraining from pressing high. Both teams exhibited a cautious and deliberate approach at the outset of the match. Leon, observing Chelsea's defensive posture, wore a smile, unhurried in his offensive organization. He possessed an intimate understanding of his former teammates and Mourinho's tactics. Did one truly believe that Chelsea's defensive stance indicated a conservative strategy? The moment one attempted to press forward with an offensive move, they would fall directly into Mourinho's tactical trap. To exploit any tactical advantage against this Chelsea side, one must patiently wait for them to make the first move. For a proactive Chelsea, there were vulnerabilities to exploit, but a reactive Chelsea became almost an insurmountable challenge. Leon would never underestimate the formidable synergy forged between De Bruyne and Chelsea's current attacking trident. De Bruyne, returning to the midfield, embodied his strongest self. In terms of seizing opportunities and delivering threatening passes during counterattacks, he could be regarded as the best in the footballing world, leaving Leon in awe. Aware of his former teammates' ability to dramatically alter the course of the match, Leon knew he must stifle this threat at its inception. Ancelotti placed considerable trust in him, valuing the tactical insights he provided. This was also the fundamental reason Real Madrid, in their recent Champions League semi-final against Atletico Madrid, had deviated from their usual tempo, consistently slowing down the pace of the game. Today, Real Madrid was well adjusted to a slower rhythm and had long been prepared for the possibility of extra time, or even a penalty shootout against Chelsea. Everything serves the ultimate victory. Each individual is willing to sacrifice for the glory of the Champions League title that will restore Real Madrid's former brilliance. This is the current embodiment of the white-clad legion, capable of fierce offensives while also exhibiting resilience. Their attacking prowess is commendable, and their defense is equally reliable. Mourinho could hardly have anticipated that Ancelotti and these proud stars of Real Madrid could reach such heights for this monumental clash. The return of Leon does not merely bolster Real Madrid's confidence and determination to triumph. He also resurrects the championship mentality that characterized Mourinho's era at the club. Adaptability is the hallmark of true greatness, and Real Madrid has endured enough hardship from being overly rigid in recent seasons. Thus, they have risen anew with a more cunning approach, exuding an air of composure that perplexes the Chelsea players across the pitch. The style of play exhibited by Real Madrid today is utterly different from what Chelsea had anticipated. It is not that they were unaware that Real Madrid would adopt a conservative strategy at the outset. They simply did not foresee the extent of that conservatism. Mourinho, observing from the sidelines, could only shake his head in resignation, instantly deducing that it was Leon who had shaped the opening tactics for today's final. Leon possesses an intimate understanding of Chelsea and is acutely aware of their most formidable weapons, hence his reluctance to expose Real Madrid's defense to significant risk. "Oh, little lion, you certainly know how to present me with a conundrum," Mourinho chuckled softly, shaking his head as he returned to his coaching seat. The situation is indeed delicate, but it is merely a test of patience. They too have prepared thoroughly for this final. If Ancelotti can wait, so too can he. Mourinho, comfortably settled on the bench, conveyed a resolute tactical philosophy to the Chelsea players on the field: remain calm, stay composed, and continue executing the pre-match strategy. Thus, the two teams found themselves locked in a stalemate in midfield. Their fierce contest commenced at the center, with either side striving to stretch the opponent's defense whenever possession was gained, seeking to create more space for passing and maneuvering. Leon, armed with superior physicality and ball control, maintained a notable advantage in the midfield skirmishes. He consistently advanced with the ball, carving out small pockets of space. While Lyon could not break the tactical deadlock between the two teams, the unexpected opportunities he created were sufficient to afford Real Madrid additional chances for their stars to shine. Whether in collaboration with Cristiano Ronaldo or Gareth Bale, he consistently managed to orchestrate an attack before Chelsea's defenders could close in. While not every attempt posed a threat, the opportunities for attempts were certainly earned. However, as Chelsea tightened their formation, decisively stifling the half space, Lyon's attempts were further curtailed. After all, he is not the only one familiar with Chelsea and Mourinho. His former teammates and Mourinho are equally aware of his capabilities, denying him any comfortable entry into the defensive third and making it exceedingly difficult for Real Madrid's attacking players to generate set-piece opportunities in the heart of their defense. When the moment for a foul arose, Chelsea's midfield players decisively executed a tactical foul, showcasing their determination. Real Madrid's brief offensive strategy faltered, leading them to abandon the endeavor. Fully aware that they could never outpace Chelsea in launching a grand assault, the two teams resembled sloths, embodying a stalemate where neither side moved. However, the technical duel on the field remained quite captivating. Hazard exhibited an exquisite display of dribbling past several opponents in a confined space, while Lyon showcased the aesthetic power of a tank-like advance. Coupled with the intricate passing combinations and attempts at breakthroughs from both teams' midfielders, the first half of the match was indeed thrilling, even in the absence of goals, leaving the fans far from bored. As halftime approached, Mourinho and Ancelotti exchanged smiles and handshakes under the watchful gaze of the broadcast cameras. The two were indeed good friends, yet both silently wondered how the other could remain so patient. As seasoned tacticians, their ability to conjure such a match scenario was unsurprising, given their proven track record in Serie A. At the very least, numerous Serie A fans felt quite satisfied after witnessing the first half of the Champions League final, adapting well to the spectacle. After all, both side stars had made their presence felt, and the flow of the game was commendable. It was certainly preferable to the disjointed rhythm of attacks often witnessed in Serie A, where each team disrupted the other's offensive tempo. Ultimately, neither team was truly hunkering down to contest defensively. Rather, they were cautiously probing for offensive opportunities. Following the brief 15-minute intermission, the players returned to the pitch, instinctively seizing the initiative as the match resumed. From that moment, the atmosphere of this final clash transformed into one of fervor and excitement. Ancelotti and Mourinho once again exchanged knowing glances from the sidelines, muttering their mutual acknowledgement of each other's cunning before directing their players to intensify their attacks. Real Madrid continued to focus their efforts on the flanks, leveraging the historic wing partnership of Cristiano Ronaldo and Bale to maximize the potency of their wide offensive play. Chelsea, in contrast, persistently sought to penetrate the lateral zones of Real Madrid's defense, particularly during the moments when De Bruyne and Salah or Hazard suddenly switched positions. De Bruyne's incisive through ball from the wing was nothing short of ethereal. In the 53rd minute of the second half, Pepe narrowly evaded being caught out by a perfectly timed pass from De Bruyne into the lateral zone. Fortunately, Carvajal's timely defensive intervention disrupted Hazard's advancing shot, sending it wide of the goal. Otherwise, the consequences could have been dire. On the other side, Bale, bolstered by the home crowd's support, grew increasingly emboldened, successfully breaking through Trippier's defense on multiple occasions. The two teams exchanged attacks, each showcasing their unique offensive styles and threats. A multitude of neutral fans were thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. Yet, as the clock ticked to the 60th minute of the second half, Real Madrid and Chelsea once again reached a mutual understanding, subtly easing the pace of the match. The two teams' players must once again build their stamina in preparation for the next offensive surge, rendering the match exceedingly thrilling. Both sides possess the potential and opportunities to breach their opponent's defense first. It is merely a matter of which side fate favors today. At this moment, Jean-Jun, who is once again providing live commentary for the fans of Huagua, is feeling the pressure, while Coach Zhang, usually composed, is now intently fixated on the large screen. His usual banter noticeably diminished. Fans from around the globe are eagerly anticipating the next clash of attacks between the two teams. However, just as De Bruyne, in a manner reminiscent of the earlier stalemate, attempts to infiltrate the Real Madrid midfield through a localized offensive, both Lyon and Modric suddenly launch a fierce and decisive double team against him. Initially, De Bruyne remains relatively unfazed after taking a step back with the ball. He resolutely decides to pass it back to Kroos, who he knows will be in position to receive. Yet, in the next instant, he is startled to see an unexpected white figure, Casemiro, intercepting the ball, seizing a golden opportunity for Real Madrid to counterattack. Jean-June, unable to contain his emotions, erupts in a roar during the live broadcast. Meanwhile, Chelsea's players, seemingly caught off guard, are sluggish in their response to Casemiro, who has unexpectedly taken up Lyon's tactical position to initiate the counterattack. However, with nearly everyone pushing forward, Real Madrid will not afford Chelsea the luxury of a leisurely retreat. Ancelotti is now restless, springing from the bench and swiftly pacing to the sidelines. Memories of Lyon's significant advice during training 2 weeks prior flood his mind. Just as I have an in-depth understanding of Chelsea, my former teammates will undoubtedly keep a close watch on me during the final. They are too familiar with my playing style. So, you wish to surprise them tactically? That seems to encapsulate the idea. Perhaps it should be termed tactical deception, using their familiarity with me to mislead them. Of course, Luka Modric cannot be the focal point of that tactical variation, as that intent would be too evident. Let Enrique Casemiro trigger the counterattack. I believe he can execute such a tactical assignment. Indeed, Lyon is acutely aware of De Bruyne's character and the inherent risk-taking spirit within him. Therefore, he positions himself defensively, serving as a tactical bait to entice De Bruyne into making forward passing attempts. Even if De Bruyne remains cautious over the course of 90 minutes, he is bound to exhibit a moment of recklessness. At such a moment, Lyon's deeper positioning does not pose a significant threat to Chelsea's backline, prompting their defenders to instinctively focus on Lyon's advancing runs. In their estimation, the defensive midfielder Casemiro, who they do not anticipate will play a crucial role in the counterattack, becomes the pivotal blade piercing through Chelsea's defenses. Lyon has faith that Casemiro can withstand the pressure of the attack and fulfill the advancement task that is rightfully his. The world has become accustomed to Casemiro's defensive performances over the past few seasons, often overlooking the fact that he hails from the Brazilian league. In terms of technical prowess, Casemiro does indeed exhibit a gap when compared to the elite attacking midfielders currently gracing the football world. However, this disparity is far less pronounced than what fans might imagine, and he is certainly not the rough defender some may depict him as. At this moment on the pitch, Casemiro steadily advanced and soon demonstrated his worthiness of the team's trust with a precise diagonal long pass. Lyon had just crossed the halfway line when Casemiro's long ball found Cristiano Ronaldo, who was sprinting down the wing and successfully penetrating Chelsea's defensive third. Faced with Azpilicueta's immediate challenge, Ronaldo did not hesitate. He swiftly passed the ball to Benzema, who had made a timely retreat to support. In this crucial moment, Benzema withstood the defensive pressure from Thiago Silva, clearly orchestrating a transfer of possession to the right flank. Bale cleverly let the ball pass, allowing Carvajal to make a decisive run to the byline. Trippier desperately chased back, but Carvajal's pace proved superior, and he quickly delivered an accurate cross. At this juncture, Benzema leapt high in the center of the penalty area, bravely challenging Maguire for the aerial ball. However, Maguire's exceptional aerial ability prevailed, and he managed to deflect the ball out of the penalty area. Mourinho, observing this from the sidelines, finally felt a sense of relief. Yet, in the next instant, upon noticing Modric unmarked, Mourinho urgently shouted, "Don't let him shoot." Matic, well aware of Modric's formidable long-range shooting skills, was mentally prepared to take a risk and commit a foul. But before he could act, Modric once again laid the ball off. When Matic saw the white-clad figure charging towards the ball, the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. It was Lyon. Approaching the ball, he subtly lifted his left leg, clearly poised to unleash a powerful shot. Without hesitation, Thiago Silva surged out of the penalty area, his sole thought being that he must not allow Lyon to take that shot. Yet, contrary to his expectations, the scenario he envisioned, blocking Lyon's thunderous strike, did not materialize. For he was deftly deceived by Lyon's feint and dribbling maneuver. Calmly bypassing Thiago Silva, Lyon advanced to the top of Chelsea's penalty area. This time, he refrained from further dribbling, resolutely taking his shot before Maguire and Matic could close in for a double team. Oblak had already begun his diving save. Feeling confident due to the countless practice sessions Lyon had undergone with him over the past season. At the edge of the penalty area, Lyon had increasingly favored the exquisite finesse of curling shots into the corners. Much to Oblak's chagrin, as this was his least favorite style of opponent's strikes. Oblak's wingspan was not particularly remarkable. Compared to gifted goalkeepers like Courtois, his physical attributes could be deemed merely average. Thus, he did not believe that Lyon would abandon his attempts to exploit his defensive shortcomings. He resolutely lunged towards the upper left corner of the goal. However, the football ultimately soared erratically in a direction entirely contrary to his efforts. Lyon did not direct his shot towards the far corner. Rather, he executed a half-height strike. His posture prior to the shot completely deceived Oblak, as well as all the spectators present and those watching on television. The trembling of Lyon's ankle resulted in a shot of rather modest quality, a rather clever strike. The ball eventually collided softly with the net behind Chelsea's goal, under the watchful gaze of Oblak's despairing eyes. The pristine white net rippled subtly, and the football ultimately lost its forward momentum, falling and then bouncing back up. In that moment, the millennium-old Cardiff Stadium erupted into an overwhelming cheer. The entire venue seemed to tremble, and the starry sky quivered and changed hue. Red fireworks and smoke spread across the stands. The Real Madrid players frantically rushed towards Lyon, who stood in place with his arms raised after scoring. The substitutes for Real Madrid also passionately sprinted onto the field, reveling in the moment. Ancelotti could no longer contain his composure, embracing Zidane who charged towards him, letting out a triumphant roar. Mourinho gazed blankly at Lyon, who stood with his arms raised and lips pursed, momentarily lost in thought. Across the globe, countless fans raised their beers, embracing their friends or loved ones, celebrating this joyous occasion. In the live broadcast, Lyon stood resolutely in front of Chelsea's penalty area. As teammates fervently patted his body and celebrated, his eyes filled with remorse. The tens of thousands of Chelsea fans present could not muster any applause upon witnessing this scene. Looking at the Lion King who had once led them to prominence in the football world, and seeing the sincerity in his eyes, devoid of pretense and filled with emotion for Chelsea, all they could offer was forgiveness. In the 64th minute of the match, Real Madrid seized an opportunity that Chelsea had not recklessly pursued, successfully breaking the deadlock through a counterattack. The timing of this goal was particularly awkward for Chelsea. Had it occurred slightly earlier, they would have had ample time to adjust, or had it been a touch later, the team could have shed their psychological burdens and committed fully to their counteroffensive. Being caught in this neither too early nor too late moment was indeed a source of vexation for all involved with Chelsea. Thus, while there was no sense of panic, Chelsea was a team well-versed in high-stakes situations. Mourinho quickly made tactical adjustments, pushing Salah into a second striker position, with De Bruyne moving to the flanks, as Chelsea shifted to a 4-4-2 formation. Meanwhile, Llorente began to warm up on the sidelines. Chelsea needed to intensify their offensive efforts. Ancelotti, on the other hand, swiftly orchestrated his own tactical realignment. Lyon returned to his position as a defensive midfielder, forming a formidable duo with Casemiro, while both Cristiano Ronaldo and Gareth Bale also dropped back into the midfield, prompting Real Madrid to adopt a 4-2-3-1 formation. The intention of counterattacking became unmistakably clear. The dynamics of the match shifted from a lackluster pace to an aggressive contest of attack and defense, with increased possession opportunities. Suarez's exquisite shooting skills were finally put to good use. At the zenith of his prowess, his striking ability rivaled that of Messi and Ronaldo. At this moment, with the freedom to unleash his shots, he applied considerable pressure on Navas. Observing this, Lyon even withdrew to the defensive line to curtail the influence of his former teammate. However, at a crucial juncture, Suarez, after drawing the attention of several defenders, executed a clever backheeled pass that nearly allowed Salah to breach Real Madrid's goal. Alas, Salah's pursuit of the perfect angle resulted in a shot that struck the post. Otherwise, Chelsea might have leveled the score in the 70th minute. The Real Madrid defenders, shaken by the near miss, intensified their marking of Suarez. At this moment, understanding the urgency of defensive decisions, Lyon decisively signaled tactical adjustments to Ancelotti on the sidelines. Truth be told, this was quite a risky move. Should they decide to hold their ground and subsequently concede a goal to Chelsea, Real Madrid, having revealed their tactical hand, would find themselves in a precarious position. Nevertheless, in a pivotal moment, Ancelotti chose to trust Liang's astute judgment of the game situation, without hesitation, preparing Nacho and Varane to enter the fray. However, upon their arrival, not both played as defenders. Nacho assumed a role as a defensive midfielder, while Varane joined Ramos and Pepe to form a trio of central defenders. Benzema and Bale were substituted, prompting Real Madrid to shift to a 5-4-1 formation. This was a desperate defensive maneuver. Sensing the change, Mourinho promptly introduced Llorente and instructed Maguire to frequently surge forward to aid the attack. This strategy aimed to unleash the team's heavy artillery to forcefully breach Real Madrid's staunch defense. Such a straightforward attacking tactic proved surprisingly effective at this juncture. Pepe fared adequately against the aging Llorente, but he struggled against the youthful and robust Maguire. Ultimately, it fell to Lyon and the taller Varane to double-team Maguire defensively. This sheer display of willpower and physical confrontation escalated the battle between the two teams to a brutal level. Pepe and Llorente clashed heads during a contested aerial duel, resulting in both sustaining cuts above their brows. Yet, after receiving basic stitches on the sidelines, they opted to return to the fray. Lyon also felt the impact from his former young rival, Maguire. However, observing Varane's evident struggle, Lyon gritted his teeth and resolutely ensured that Maguire did not have the luxury of comfortably connecting with a header. As the match time sped by, reaching the 85th minute, Mourinho was left with no choice but to play his final attacking card. He substituted the newly acquired forward Batshuayi for Matic, making one last desperate attempt. However, the trust he placed was met with Batshuayi's two wayward attempts on goal within Real Madrid's penalty area. These absurd misses rendered Suarez's formidable defensive capabilities futile, causing Chelsea to lose all chances of a comeback, leading to their ultimate reckoning. The referee, timing the match, blew the final whistle as he watched Hazard's last shot from outside the box soar into the stands. In that fleeting moment, Lyon, who had been filling in as a center-back, was caught off guard and was enveloped in a fervent embrace by Varane and Pepe. Bale, with tears glistening in his eyes, knelt at the center of Cardiff's Millennium Stadium, planting a deep kiss on the muddy pitch. He had finally proven himself, etching his name into the annals of Real Madrid and the world of football with the glory of a treble-winning season. Ronaldo gazed up at the starry sky, hands on his hips, a look of serene contentment gracing his face. Ancelotti was moved to tears. After his tumultuous journey post-Milan, having faced disrespect at Chelsea and failing to conjure more miracles at Paris Saint-Germain, he had endured relentless scrutiny from the media and fans during his years at Real Madrid. Yet today, after enduring hardships, he had once again showcased his prowess, leading his team to the pinnacle of European football. Zidane embraced Ancelotti, soothing his mentor while his eyes sparkled with ambition. Perez and other executives of Real Madrid, seated in the VIP box, wore expressions of joy, applauding heartily. This Real Madrid evidently had several more seasons of peak performance ahead without necessitating significant transfer expenditure. With some reinforcements, they might yet savor the exquisite taste of consecutive Champions League triumphs. Who could then question Florentino Perez's historical stature at Real Madrid? Perhaps the next round of elite competitions in European football could be spearheaded by his Real Madrid in a pioneering capacity. On the pitch, where there is laughter, there are naturally tears. After an initial wave of exuberant celebrations, Lyon and his teammates approached Chelsea's half, embracing and comforting their former comrades one by one. Particularly, he consoled a tearful De Bruyne, holding him for several minutes while reassuring him not to dwell too deeply on a single defeat. Kroos remained remarkably composed. After all, he was already a winner in life, and losing a Champions League final was not enough to break his spirit. The two exchanged smiles, shaking hands and embracing on the field before swapping jerseys and engaging in hushed conversation, the content of which remained a mystery. Finally, Lyon made his way to the sidelines, where he was warmly greeted by Mourinho, who embraced him tightly. "You little rascal, weren't we supposed to avoid scoring today?" Mourinho appeared unfazed by the loss, even playfully patting Lyon's shoulder and cracking a joke. At that moment, Lyon found himself at a loss for words, simply tightening his grip in the embrace with Mourinho. As the season draws to a close, we find ourselves with ample time to gather and celebrate. This evening belongs to you, and though I may not feel the sting of defeat, my pride in you remains unwavering. With tear-filled eyes, Lyon approached his teammates under the watchful gaze of Mourinho. Former players of Mourinho's Real Madrid greeted him one by one, embracing him warmly. The end of the match left the pitch filled with the warmth of old friends reuniting. Yet it was the fervent celebration of the championship players that truly ignited the atmosphere. Ancelotti could not escape the jubilant grasp of his players, as they tossed him into the air repeatedly. During the final award ceremony, The once slender yet spirited coach led his players onto the stage with enthusiasm. As the Grand Champions League anthem resonated, Ramos accepted the Champions League trophy and raised it triumphantly high. A cascade of confetti rained down from above. Leon took the heavy trophy from Ramos, placing it atop his head, and, facing the camera, he clenched his fist and roared. Undoubtedly, this was yet another championship night for him, and he no longer needed to prove his standing in the football world. He rightfully occupies the position of the current best player, dominating all competitors on the field and achieving the historic feat of 3 consecutive Champions League titles. He is undeniably on the path to greatness. Perhaps, in the absence of national team accolades, this journey will be fraught with challenges and twists. Yet, he firmly believes that years from now, when he officially retires, fans will wholeheartedly declare this era the Lion King era. This is his story, a tale of a young lion from Valdebebas evolving into a legendary king. The end. Final thoughts. I must extend my sincerest apologies to all the supporters of this book. In this concluding month, I faced illnesses and hospital stays, along with the frustrations of editing and rewriting, which hindered my ability to finish the book smoothly. This is my fault, and I accept any criticism. Regarding the dual releases, I can only say that I will watch others succeed in that endeavor. I am not suited for it. It is best for me to complete my existing works before embarking on new ones. The final free chapters of Balotelli will be uploaded in the next couple of days, followed by the completion of some supplementary chapters in due time. We have concluded with commendable results, and I am truly grateful to all the supporters of this book. Without you, I am nothing. I recognize that my nature can be a bit stubborn. At times when I am unwell or not in good spirits, my output diminishes. I would rather face criticism or lose subscriptions than frequently provide explanations. Alas, this old habit has plagued me during the serialization of my previous works, and it seems I have not yet learned my lesson. It is imperative to rectify this detrimental habit of mine. Communication is essential to avoid causing displeasure to esteemed individuals who invest their resources, ultimately leaving the creator without any benefit. The recent performance of my new book has been commendable, and although many prominent figures may voice their criticisms, they have still chosen to extend their support, for which I am profoundly grateful. Let us consider this a fresh beginning, as I endeavor to rectify my shortcomings through the updates of this new work. Words are futile. Henceforth, I shall maintain a daily update of 10,000 words following its release, and I kindly request the esteemed individuals to oversee my progress. The previous book faced challenges in its final updates due to my shortcomings, yet it was completed satisfactorily, without a lackluster conclusion. For those eager for further developments, I shall include them in complimentary side stories. In conclusion, I humbly request your continued engagement and monthly votes for my new book. I shall return to my writing now. Dear readers, and I look forward to our reunion through this new endeavor. My new book, titled Almost Helping Manchester United Rise, I Choose to Flee, is nearing the 10,000-word mark. This time, it is a coaching narrative that aims to address the regrets of both Ronaldo and Mourinho in their illustrious careers, while also chronicling the remarkable rise of a reborn individual after years of obscurity in coaching. Capturing the essence of competitive matches is my forte, and I aspire to transcend my previous efforts by crafting a uniquely characterized young coach. Interested readers are invited to peruse the beginning of this new work. Should it pique your interest, I kindly ask for your generous support through collections and votes. Thank you once again. The new book, From Real Madrid's Substitute to Center Forward Glory, has been published, and I earnestly seek your support.